Hi, can you hear me? Yes, great. Good morning, everyone. So, my name is Josefina Nano. I know that my last name is quite cool, right? It's Nano. Welcome, everyone. I'm programs lead at Fab City Foundation. And today we have crafted a series of conversations, panels, workshops all around Fab City, Fab Foundation. So, for the ones that are still wondering what we do in Fab City, stick around for today. We'll start with Tomás Diez, founder and executive chairman of the Fab City Foundation. So, Tomás, welcome. The stage is yours.
I need a clicker, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Tomas. This is my primary job. You don't know who's the CEO in this image. It's a rotating role between the three little ones in the left side. I live in Bali. I am originally from Venezuela. And yeah, I've been some time around. So Rodney launched a challenge on finding the person that has attended the most Fab conferences, besides Neil and Sherry, of course. And I think I'm up to the competition. I've been in 18 out of 22 in the last 2 years. And yeah, I hope to be around for quite some more time. Um, so I was also part of the first class of how to make almost anything that happened outside Boston. Um, I took it in Barcelona. That was back in 2008. And I've been developing some projects that probably you heard about. One of them, the Smart Citizen project, which we are retaking some of that work during this conference. Fab Labs IO, which was a way of taking the Fab Lab list of the uh, Word document handled by Sherry in Boston and making it more distributed. And more recently, I've been working assisting the Fab Lab Valley team. You're going to hear about it from Elaine later on. This was July 7, 2014. This is the moment in which the Fab City Pledge started. Um, the mayor didn't know what was happening, and you're going to see that later on. But you look at the clock. That was 6 seconds after the countdown, right? You take me to count, Neil. I'm counting everything in this presentation. Uh, so 12 years out of 40 have gone. We are roughly 28 years left of the Fab City Challenge, right? But a lot of things have been happening also in these 12 years. Um, One of the theses of Fab City that we should be prepared to make cities more resilient, be able to produce locally, and that argument has become more and more important lately with all the crises that we have been facing. You know, pandemics, environmental crises, earthquakes, wars, the emergence of AI, which is a big disruption, and probably I'm gonna be quick in the next slide. Don't want to scare you, and probably the biggest tragedy of all, right? So real life happens out there, right? And many people is working on dealing with that, right? And the front lines. This is the response from makers to wars. This is the response from makers to pandemics, which is faster than sometimes institutions have most of the times, right? And more lately, one touch really home. This is the response from makers in Venezuela after the huge earthquakes, which were also made worse due to the lack of infrastructure and proper building codes in the country for the last 25 years, which make a disaster that in Japan will be, a couple hundred casualties. This is going to be a few dozens of thousands of casualties. So many people in the world mobilized to help Venezuela, and that really, kept some of that spirit of, we're ready to respond. We're really fast to take action when things happen. But one of the things that, and I was discussing today in the morning during the humanitarian working group, is that why we should wait for a crisis to happen, right? Why we don't make this more permanent, right? A kind of a continuous attitude in building our localities, building our communities, and that's part of the work that we have been pushing within Fab City for the last few years. One of them, some of you have experienced the Fab City challenges that started in Bali back in 2022, which is a way also to land into a place, us as a community, when we go to a Fab conference and respond to things that are happening locally, connect with real makers that are working on the ground, and pair somehow the global knowledge and capabilities with the local people on the ground. And that proved to be fantastic during these last few years. This is evolving to an ongoing program that is not only going to be dedicated for the Fab conferences, but actually happen throughout the year, and even taking it further by some of our alumni and some of our network champions, like Lead, which you are around maybe, that has been doing this challenge in the city of Shenzhen as an ongoing program with high schools. This is a short video from Bhutan. Maybe we can put some sound. No? Okay.
So we've been working very closely with the Fab City Foundation, and from there it really grew to involve all of the other labs in the country. So we have the BioFab Lab at the College of Natural Resources. We have the Fab Lab at the College of Science and Technology. We have the Fab Lab at the Digital Institute. And we have the Fab Lab at the Junior Anthropology Institute. And so all of these Fab Labs will kind of come together to work with this Fab Lab. And through guidance from the Fab City Foundation, we've been able to actually partake in the Fabrication challenge.
it's always touching to see those videos of the challenges. So in a way, like one of the things that I want to stress out quite hardly is that the lab is machines, the lab is equipment, but the labs sit in a context, right? And that's somehow like what we have been trying to push from Fab City is like look beyond the walls of your lab. You know, don't look down to the machines. You know, take up your sites and look what is happening in your context, in your territory, with your local community. So we want to engage Fab Labs in understanding that their area of influence is not just the room where they are located, but actually it sits in the entire planet. um, Means that we can have influence, direct or indirect, and what's happening very locally, but also thanks to the global reach that we have, being in over almost 3,000 places, you can really take things quite quick at the global scale. So it's not so crazy to think about our planetary capability to produce change, right? So that's one of the things that we're trying to push with a new initiative slash project that we are pushing forward. And we applied for a big grant for this. It's called Planeteye, and it basically says it takes the assumption that we have a lot of satellites going around Earth. We're able to see into very small detail what's happening, but sometimes the actions to respond to what we see is very slow, right? The argument here is that with this distributed installed infrastructure of fabrication that we have in the world, we can reduce that time of response when we make an observation, right? And by working at especially 5 scales, not only limited to 5, we can start to imagine how a Fab can take that observation, compare it with a local deployed sensor or some kind of data gathering at the local level, and can turn it into an action that can transform and change that reading, and positively affect what we're reading, what we're measuring at the hyperlocal scale with planetary implications. No, so again, this is part of project, part of an experiment. We're going to start prototyping in the next 6 months, which basically trying to, again, what I was saying, like enhance the flexibility, the, um, the response capacity that a city or a region has at the local level, no, to address these issues. And then very attached to this is a new instrument to measure that, which is the Fab City Index. The new Fab City Index is a version number 3 after a couple of iterations by the city of Paris and the city of Hamburg. And it's trying to incorporate the idea of not only measuring how much we produce and consume, but also how much a city and a region is doing to change that. Means that if we only measure what we produce and how much trash is coming out of that production, or how much we import, we are limiting somehow of understanding how the city is prepared to change that. Meaning like measuring how many Fab Labs you have locally, how much open data, how many community sensors are deployed locally, how many policies on circular economy are you implementing, how much patents, how much open source designs that city is sharing with the world. So we start to weight also good things that cities are doing and not only measure how trashy you are, right? And the time parameter here is also try to understand how flexible that relationship between the city, let's say, wastefulness and the city local infrastructure to change that, how fast it is to transform it. So it's the time variable. What is the time response that a city has, okay? We tested some of these this week. We have deployed a few of these sensors with you. These are environmental sensors that are running on a mesh network. We're using Meshtastic in a collaboration with Seed Studio. There are some nodes running in Boston right now, producing data, but also we managed to connect these nodes in a transcontinental way across the ocean without going through any internet service provider. So this is like a sensor, it can be a big deal. I mean, shout out to Oscar in Barcelona and the team from Sensical of helping doing this. So this means that it's not only sensor data that can travel without being the capacity of being censored, but also messaging, people talking to each other, communicating when the race of authoritarianism is coming more and more. This is very important, right? So again, we have something to do and something to say in big things that are happening around the world today. And more importantly, this is work that Tomas Vivanco is going to show today in the afternoon workshops, is how we connect this sensor data, but also other type of data, open data from the cities, planetary satellite data, UN open data sets, and starts to feed this matrix, which is the new base of a Fab City Index 3.0. So if you want to experiment with that, come to the workshop this afternoon that Tomas is running at the Media Lab. So I wanted you to think about this, that our work is not only local, but it operates at different scales, right? We operate at the city scale, at the region scale, where most of the things happen to us. We depend on bioregional systems, and we're going to see that later today in one of the sessions, in one of the panels. And also, as I showed you, we have these things. Our work has planetary implications, but it's not only fabrication, right, and data collection. It's also computation, and especially on the rise of AI and the large language models. And we start to see big companies being more and more building bigger and bigger data centers that are consuming lots of water and a lot of actually land. The importance of running, owning, and keeping localized AIs with local intelligence as part of an infrastructure that we also nurture and look after is quite important for this work. So the Fab City Index doesn't need to run in a global server run by Fab City. It's your server running locally, and we want to help you do that, right? And this is part of a new Fab City vision. So if you want to learn more about this, you can go to planeti.fab.city. It's a project that we're going to be piloting in these years, and it's an invitation. You're going to hear more about that later today as well. And also, if you want to take this into practice, we invite you to the workshops. The one that I mentioned before is the Matrix workshop run by Tomas and me. We're also going to be continuing the work on the sensors, data collection at 2:30. And then you're going to be in a workshop with Lars on the Fab Labs or Labs orchestration hubs to have this wider role within the community. So with that, I hand over to Josefina. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so now moving forward, it's a real pleasure to welcome you today to the Fab City Awards 2026 Winners Roundtable. This is a program that's really close to my heart because we give the opportunity to initiatives around the world that actually have struggled to have a voice. So in this session, we will showcase and learn from the winning initiatives of this year's edition, all working in different ways around our 2026 theme, which is collective action for regenerative urban futures. So I'm thrilled to hand over the moderation of today's session to jurors Ginger Zhang, community manager at Seed Studio from the US and China, Yasushi Sakai, MIT Media Lab City Science Group from Japan, and Bebab Shabra, chief breaker and founder at Makers Asylum in India. Of course, we also have the pleasure to have here on-site winners Elaine Regina, representing our overall award impact from Bali, and Daniel Ceballos Andrade, representing the Thomas Tugan Award from Ecuador. So thank you so much for guiding today's conversation. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Josefina. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fab City Awards 2026 Winners Roundtable. And this is actually the fourth edition. We've been doing this award so far. And every year, this is also one of my favorite moments to recognize and to celebrate the amazing social impact makers and innovators from around the world. So this award itself has also been evolving as the fourth edition. Previously in 2023, it was around for local productive resilient cities. In 2024, we iterated to from foundations to impact. And in 2025, it was from ground up climate action. And this year, we have also iterated, and the submission has been keep increasing. And so thank you for everyone who submitted the projects for the award. And if you are not aware of it, also please know that this is an annual event that we are doing and will be keep doing. And it's an honor here to represent the juries that have worked on this as a collective and to celebrate the winners here today. So there are three pillars in the Fab City Award, and it all aligns to the fundamental value of the Fab City as well, where it's community, technology, and nature. So for example, community, we look at if this is a grassroots initiative. How is participatory design involved if you're just working in the lab or if you're like working with a local community? And for technology, we not only look at if it's a high tech, we look at if it's appropriate. You know, it could be a low tech a solution, but it's meaningful for the community. And we also look at the nature aspect, where it's a regenerative ecosystem, and also if it's extractive, or if it's regenerative. So all of these provides a very holistic framework for us to really evaluate the submissions, the projects from around the world. And also it's a goal for us to really use this framework as well to educate more innovators from around the world to not only focus on technology, but how do you, with all the pillars, to create impact.
Till now, we've had 142 submissions from 6 continents, 43 countries, and over 60 cities, towns, and villages. And this specific year, we had 51 submissions, and out of which we had to select 5 amazing awardees. It took 32 jurors from across the world, a lot of discussions, and a lot of coffee to get this far. A lot of them could not make it over here today, but big shout out to all of them. Some of them are here with us in the audience. Shari, of course, right here. We have Bino. I don't know if she's there somewhere. And Rodney, Victor.
Rodney.
Big shout out to everyone for being part of the jury. With that, let's get started.
Okay, so it was a great pleasure, great fun to actually participate in this jury selection. I learned a lot. And as Ginger started, we have three prizes for each category. And my job is to actually congratulate them. So the first one, the community prize, goes to Segregate to Regenerate. The nature category goes to Sparkwise Initiative. The technology category goes to Speaker Sculpture. And we have videos that explain their projects following this. And so yes.
So now let's watch some videos from the winning projects.
Every day, our homes generate waste. But what if we looked at it differently? Not as garbage, but as a resource waiting to be managed responsibly. At ROCA, residents of Kasturba Association, we believe that sustainable communities begin with informed citizens and collective action. Since our journey began, we have worked hand in hand with residents, schools, institutions, and organizations to create awareness about one simple yet powerful habit: source segregation. From source segregation to piloting community composting system and collecting flexible low value plastics for recycling, to working with educational institutions in building in situ food waste treatment plants, ROCA has become a model for decentralized waste management. Our biannual waste collection drives have become more than just collection events. They are community celebrations of environmental responsibility, where thousands of kilograms of e-waste, unusable clothes, glass, and other recyclable materials are diverted from landfills and sent for responsible recycling. We encourage households to embrace composting because every compost bin represents one less burden on our overflowing landfills. But our greatest achievement isn't measured in kilograms of waste collected. It's measured in people, families choosing to segregate their waste every day. children becoming environmental champions, volunteers dedicating their time for a greener tomorrow, neighbors inspiring neighbors. Together, we have shown that lasting change doesn't require extraordinary actions, only ordinary people coming together with a shared purpose. Because sustainability is not a one time campaign, it's a way of life. Every home that segregates waste, every individual who chooses to compost, every community that works together brings us one step closer to a regenerative future. At Roka, we are not just managing waste, we are building a culture of environmental responsibility. Join us. Thank you. This is Janani Venkatesh from Roka.
While reading this application, I really appreciate that this started with 100 families. I think it's been 8 years now. They expanded to 2,500 households that actually segregate and help this effort. So really, I really love the idea that this community is growing, not just by numbers, but actually having impact. So the next is
Across many underserved communities in Nigeria, two major challenges continue to affect people's lives: unreliable access to electricity and increasing plastic and electronic waste pollution. As part of our initiative, we believe these challenges can become opportunities. We are a youth-led clean energy and circular economy organization, transforming discarded plastic and electronic waste into affordable solar-powered solutions. Through our waste to solar lantern project, we collect, recycle, and transform waste materials into locally made solar lanterns that provide clean lighting for students, families, and small businesses. Our innovation combines renewable energy, recycling, STEM education, and digital fabrication to create solutions designed for our communities.
I'm happy to have the lantern too, because I've been helping. This I found sometimes that we have power failure sometimes. As you can see, I able to do my daughter's assignments. But to thank God for this Sparkwise product, the lantern is durable.
So far, we have directly impacted over 1,000 students and reached more than 10,000 community members through clean energy awareness, plastic clean-up campaigns, and community use of our solar solutions like solar lanterns.
Always audio. God bless you.
Bless you too. We have built and repaired over 1,000 solar lanterns and damaged electronic devices, while training more than 5,000 students in STEM, clean tech innovation, and entrepreneurship skills. Through partnership with innovation hubs and maker spaces, we combine and continue to improve our designs, strengthen local manufacturing, and empower young people to become climate solution creators. As part of our initiative, we are proving that waste is not just waste. With creativity, technology, and collaboration, waste can become clean energy, skills, and sustainable opportunities for communities. We are building a brighter and more regenerative future, one solar lantern at a time. This is Sparkwise Initiative, Nigeria. Thank you for supporting Sparkwise Young Developer Shine.
so for this category, they expanded, so they have impact for 10,000 families. I think that's a big number. These nature solutions needs to scale, and I think that actually answered that. But more than that, I think this project really touched three aspects. It touched social, environmental, but also economical benefits. These three things, maybe people think that they don't work together. But it was a really great example that we can learn from just by having this initiative with this so much impact. So next we go to technology.
Hi, my name is Benoit Maubrey. I'm here to talk to you about energy, and I mean human energy. I build figure sculptures. These are interactive self-sculptures for public spaces. Audiences can express themselves through the sculptures. They transform the space into a communal sonic experience. These are built with up to 3,000 recycled and connected loudspeakers. They are collected locally via flea markets, second-hand shops, personal donations, and recycling agencies. The sculptures can be used by everyone. Passers-by, local artists, musicians, DJs, neighborhood choral groups, even public weddings and birthday parties. I've seen this. This happens all live. People can plug in a microphone and other instruments and play directly through the sculpture. With Bluetooth, they can play their favorite music. With their telephones, even they can call it up and talk to it for 3 minutes. For example, we build these things all around the world. A speakers arena in Canada where people can actually sit on the speakers while they talk through them. A Torii Gate in Japan, an obelisk in Cairo, and a temple in the city of Karlsruhe, Germany, where instead of oracles, people could express themselves out loud. It's also about cooperation with local organizations, neighborhood volunteers, and youth groups, with the motto of, if you're going to use it, then we might as well help to build it, right? My message is, why shouldn't public sculptures talk and interact with the community around it? Give the public space back to the people. Make it a social space again for communication and community involvement, for fun, fantasy, and energy, the people's energy. Thank you.
I think we really like this project because it shows kind of a global network of these speakers talking to each other, but also having this local character, preserving this local character. So those two, I think this was the aspect that is unique to the technology category, where the other two prizes were more on embedded on the context of the location. So again, great 3 projects. I think it deserves another round of applause. And I'm going to hand it back to Ginger.
Yeah, thank you, Yasushi-san. So yeah, those are the 3 pillars and the 3 category winners. Again, community, technology, and nature. Those all, actually all of the projects are evaluated against those categories, and then the best rise to the top. So, and these again are just 3 of the many, many impactful projects from around the world that we could share here in a very short time. And a big shout out also to all the community builders out there, because every workshop actually takes a lot of time, a lot of energy out of the facilitator. And there's so much back-end logistics that goes beyond these presentations that we show you here to create the impact that we like to see in the community. And with that said, we're also very honored to have the 2 winners to be here live with us today. And the overall impact winner, a Green Hydrogen Village from Bali, and Sonic Field, which wins the Thomas Dugan Design Award, and Daniel from Ecuador. And so we'll have them do a live presentation for you. And another thing I wanted to give a shout out to, like Elaine here, who's a post-interdisciplinary designer. Me and Elaine met at both of our first Fab conference back in Bali a few years ago. And at that time, there was a Fab City Challenge. So the Green Hydrogen Village actually came out of a post challenge, turned into a more long-time local impact project. I'll let Elaine talk all about it. But this is also how we see Fab City, from the hackathon style challenges, to a more longer local initiative and impact to really help transform the community in the regions. So, and yeah, goes to you, Elaine.
Hi, everyone. Um, Please bear with me for the next 5 minutes. It's going to get very lengthy, but just a bit of context. In Indonesia, when we talk about energy transition initiatives, a lot of them are still very much catered towards the city and industrial scale. And so we notice that village scale adoption is still very much largely unexplored because one, the technology itself is too expensive and too complex for villagers to use. And second, social infrastructure that builds a village are never included in this initiative. So a lot of the times projects fail socially rather than technically. And this is where this project comes in. We are essentially trying to explore a blended approach of applied research and community development in Desa Serangan, the village. And so we placed the village, Desa Serangan, as a sandboxing village. The idea is that how we in Fab Lab Bali act as a territorial orchestrator, convening people from different institutions, small, medium enterprises, um, figuring out how they can essentially do research in this village. In Bali itself, there is this structure called the Banjars. And so there are about 4,600 Banjars in Bali, and one Banjar consists of 20 to 100 families. And as such, this integrated structure we see as a very important pillar to make our project succeed. And we essentially are trying to figure out how can we make this project work within one Banjar and try to scale it up to all 4,600 Banjars in Bali. And to do that, our methods are mainly technological development and community development. So in terms of technological development, we are trying to reduce the barrier to technology, figuring out how we can make hydrogen production more frugal and more low cost, and as well as very much applied to the daily lives of the local community. So for example, this is a hydrogen generator that we made, mostly fabricated with a laser cutter. Usually a generator could cost about thousands of dollars, but we managed to make it within 100 to $200. And as well as if you see here, that's a Jukung boat engine. Jukung is a type of boat that you see over here. And if you see, there's a 3D printed part. So we kind of hacked this Jukung engine utilizing the generator so that it works as a combustion process for these boats. Probably people wonder, why don't we just go full electrification? But when we were discussing with the locals there, they were hesitant and they were kind of scared. And we understand that when we want to do energy transition process, it requires phases. And essentially because they're kind of stuck in a subsidy by the government, so they see this as a better approach compared to full electrification. And this is a charging station that we also built with a fuel cell, built in a very familiar form to a lot of Indonesians. And then we noticed that a lot of the kids there, they essentially ride with electric bikes. So that's why we built the charging station. And there's a lot of waste, and waste can be turned into methane. So we're interested to see how it builds to hydrogen research. Next, in terms of the community development, we want to make sure that we empower the coastal communities so that they can utilize the technology in the future. And as such, we run a lot of STEAM-based workshops, like, for example, utilizing Manu's foldscope, and also sort of like how can we apply complex team concepts but with cultural context. So for example, we were working on creating drone workshops, but utilizing bamboo sticks like satay sticks. And this sort of like builds interest a lot with the younger kids. And then once they managed to understand the simple concept of drone, we ramped up the difficulty and then we made a proper drone workshop where the kids got really excited and they started asking us for, please, we want more workshops, we want more workshops. So essentially we see this as when we got like a community buy-in, because um, after the workshops, a lot of the locals started coming to us, and then they were asking, hey, can you help us solve these local problems we're having? So for example, this is a fishing headlamp that we built with the and co-created with the local fishermen there, because they've been using ACU batteries to essentially power up their lights, but it's very, very heavy and very, very non-ergonomic. And as well as the local youngsters there, they every year in Bali, they make these demonic sculptures. And then they were asking us, because we have all these electronics, they were asking us if we could help them make an animatronic demonic sculpture. So essentially, yeah, that's kind of like a snapshot of the project that we've worked on in the last 2 years here in Desa Serangan. And yeah, we're still gonna be building more onto this in the future.
So we're gonna give this certificate to Green Hydrogen Village. Again,
Oh, there's the photo there. Oh, thank you.
Congratulations, Fab Lab Bali, for winning the overall impact award. And so I was at the very beginning of this project from like a couple years ago, and seeing how it evolves and see how the team just being consistent in keep delivering these local workshops, working with the community, do these participatory design, also learn from the locals on their habits, their culture, is just so heartwarming for me. So with that said, it's an honor to also introduce Daniel Ceballos and Andrade. He's a new media artist from Ecuador, and we will go through your project, Daniel.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I want to start with a quick question. What if disability is considered not as a problem to solve, but is a point to understand the world different? So from a decade, we understand or we have to ask the wrong questions about how to replace, how to augment, how to replace, how to accommodate, and in a world that is designed for the eye, all that assumes is visually. And these communities, as blind and vision impaired participants, have different perception, have a lot of abilities or skills that probably enhance our current environments. How, if we start to perceive the world differently and start to augment the capacities or the public spaces using multisensory design to create better and to reimagine better collective and co-design futures in our cities. Thank you.
So, Daniel,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Picture
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you for being with us here today. And that's also another project that mesmerized me because I just love the concept of bringing in the blind community, actually ask the experts, ask the perception experts in the actually in the also in my practice and research, the past few years, I organized another kind of online inclusive technologies contest called Build Together. It was very similar kind of like concept in terms of like the co-creation and actually leveraging the disability community, like their intelligence in terms of actually shaping the product and shaping in this area, like actually a whole city and how to build public space better. So it's not just another label of accessibility from architects, point of view, but actually a co-creation with the experts over here. So all of this, I think, are kind of centered around, how to build community. And yesterday, when we were rehearsing or preparing for this session, I asked Yasushi-san, from the City Science Lab here at MIT, on how you do it here at MIT. And maybe let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was actually, because I saw the Q&A, this sometimes technology is perceived as alien, and we actually struggle a lot how we explain and how we get the community buy-in, because my work also involves community engagement and talking about really sometimes difficult concepts like upzoning. So I won't pretend that we know how to do this. We try, we make hypotheses, but particularly, can I change this to a actual question to Elaine? You briefly mentioned about this in your presentation, but can you share with us that moment that you got like comfortable talking with the community, that moment that you got buy-in, and then things kind of slowly move in that direction you talked about? Like maybe there wasn't so much knowledge on electrification, maybe there was fear. That piece of knowledge I would really appreciate. So do you have any tips or what went well?
Yeah, I think when we first started, because we ran a couple of workshops with the kids there, and we totally understand, as you mentioned, that sometimes technology feels really alien to them, and hence why we decided to make these workshops very, very relatable to them. So, for example, we were trying to figure out, okay, how can we pack renewable energy as a concept, but something that could be really fun and easy for them to get the concept. And that's why we mix a lot of like cultural context into our workshops. So what's interesting when we ran this couple of workshops and the kids got really happy and they want more workshops, the adults that happen to be, like standing by around the workshops notice that, oh, you guys are really good and you guys seem to have like a lot of these fancy tools that we don't really understand how to use, but can you potentially use these tools to help our needs? And essentially, that sort of like drive the way we make our prototypes. So I think sometimes projects, they just give out like, hey, we have this technology, this prototype, please use it in your village, but then they didn't really sort of like assess whether it fits their cultural or local context or not. And that is where I guess like our project sort of like really, really caters to. We really listen to the locals. We do a lot of focus group discussions, interviews, and based on their insights and pain points, we translate that into our prototype. And then as soon as we made like a first version of the prototype, we engage them again with the prototype and they'll be like, no, I don't like this. I think you guys need to change certain kind of stuff here so that it fits our needs better. And so there's this very organic co-creation process that I very, very much appreciate coming in from the locals because they are starting to take ownership into what kind of prototypes that they actually require and need. And for us, this gives a better picture how to make this project Green Hydrogen Village work in the village setting.
Mm. Thank you. I mean, I think it's really critical. On it's, I think it's great that age diversity on participation, and we sometimes we oversee that, but really building up that uh, buy-in. I mean, it's beautiful when we start. Maybe we bring something. We may bring, it might feel some kind of visualization and how we build or rebuild the neighborhood. But then sometimes they take it and they try to explain it in their own words. When you see that, that's so relieving. That's so it's kind of the shift change of these communal projects. Um, but yeah, so
I think the one thing that's really cool also about Fab Lab Bali, the other day, I was actually chatting with the team because I haven't visited for a while. That our location changed to smaller, but I think actually it's a good thing because they actually push them out of the lab. The making actually has to happen in the community. It's not like they have a fancy lab; they just want to stay in the lab and playing with the machines all the time. So actually, the making has to actually happen in the community, and
That's
then
right.
that's where participatory design happens. And but I would love to learn more about Maker Asylum and in India and how you run it.
So with Makers Asylum as well, it's been a community space for the last 13 years, a space that started out of pure passion, a set of creating a space where people can come together and share tools and make stuff. My personal background is I'm a mechanical engineer and photographer. I was actually here in Boston for 6 years, doing studying in PU and then working at the camera culture group at the Media Labs. Uh, so during that time, there was this sense of belonging to finding people like myself who believed in sharing. And I think this was the first time coming from a place like India where you can actually see sharing happening in a very, very open way, where everyone wants to share what they're up to, and it's not a closed mindset. I think that is the most critical mindset in a community. And I saw that in your presentation as well, with your presentation where you're talking about all the different community aspects, which is, I think, building community starts with sharing. So that's what we believe in as well.
Yeah. And I think below even beyond sharing, like it needs actually trust to that even get to a sharing. So maybe like we can also chat a little bit about, where does that actually trust trigger happens? Because that's also something that just come automatically. From my community, sometimes engagement experience a lot of time, like when you go into a new community, and especially when they hear that you're a researcher, you're academic, you have this fancy degrees, the first thing is like, you're smart and I don't want to engage with you. So where does that actually trust happens in your experience?
Actually happen when you are in the same path, you know, because actually I am a visual impaired architect, so sometimes people try to explain me some directions, some kind of things visually, but they don't understand that um, describe something is not so visual. It depends. It could be you could enhance and you could better understand if you describe uh, some environment with more than a visual perception. So when you work with with people with disabilities, with blind communities, you have to stay with there and understand the perception of these communities, because sometimes people design artifacts, design assistive devices to doesn't understand, just pretend to replace a damaged body, and that's how to we create and create some kind of trust in that communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of the, I think, my moment to actually connect with the more your community was a totally outside of like the tech context. It was actually a running event in Thailand. So one of my friend, he actually was a founder of an event called Run Together. And the Run Together is an event where like a physical able person actually pair up with a blind person to run together. And the innovation over there is actually really simple. It's just a string, you know, that you can share, you know, when you are running. But it's actually not until when I actually ran with a person
Yeah.
and realize how hard that string it is to share that signal, to share that language together as a embodied experience to really actually be able to understand the other side, you know, the other human.
I just wanted to add one more point on the trust factor that you talked about. And I wanted to give out a big shout out to all the folks that are running Fab Labs at the Fab Lab network over there. Because I think one thing that really creates trust is also space. Building that space, that lab or that environment that enables trust in the community and the people. So big shout out to everyone that's been running maker spaces and labs out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Actually, so at Seed Studio, we also have a lab in Shenzhen,
Yeah.
and it's called Chai for Makerspace. And a lot of, you know, the MIT comes every year in summer, or not summer, in January, to do their kind of residency. So a shout out here, you know, like for anyone who wants to come to Shenzhen for residency or kind of boot camp, you know, please contact us or the team. But we are actually just recently talking about how to make that space more inviting and more inclusive. And it's not about the machines. Actually, you know, like we were actually all taking picture, you know, of how the media lab here, you know, in terms of like there are small little signs that it's and I've also, you know, toured like different Fab Labs all around the world and always get inspired by great design in terms of like something that's funny, something that's more inviting. Llama in Peru, you know, I went to Peru and visited the Fab Lab, you know, a lot of like either culture stuff. Those are more for the human factor, more of the designer factor that can make the space that's more inviting and more inclusive and to build that trust with the community. I didn't want to kill the conversation here.
Oh, but that's it.
So
Um, yeah, so I would love, so I think we also want to talk about, you know, like how we can share these knowledges. You know, like this award will be done every year, and we are keep iterating it, and all of your project, you know, will keep continuing on. But also as a collective, we'd love to hear, you know, from your perspective, how we could work together and collaborate, and any thoughts.
So this is, I actually took how to make almost anything maybe 9 years ago. And I really appreciate the contents of the class also. But what I learned of that class is you actually have half the students as a TA for the next. That vertical community that you build up is very strong, I think. Maybe this Fab City Award can also kind of copy that aspect and always have this community build up so that maybe the juries are, well, maybe there's a conflict of interest, I don't know, but that kind of thinking of how we kind of create a network of people working on this, because these guys, they have the knowledge, we would accumulate more knowledge, and I think this would actually help the award. So that's I don't know yet, but it looks like how can we actually really build up. It's easy to say, oh, let's build a community, but what is the actual proposals of connecting these projects together? And also having, oh, we borrowed ideas from this project. This doesn't work. That kind of know-how accumulation, I think that's critical. So yeah, maybe, well, I'm still thinking, but
I mean, I think, oops.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, I think that's why, like, here, I mean, as part of the Fab Lab network, like, I feel really grateful because when we were working with the local communities, we basically take a lot of inspiration from a lot of projects out there. And I guess, like, that's why we would love to connect with anyone from the network who would potentially be interested in our project and see how we can potentially do some exploratory research that is super applied and works directly with the community. Because I think obviously like we have the community buy-in, which is amazing, but at the same time, we here in Fab Lab Valley, we're essentially kind of like a baby in a way, absorbing like the different things that are happening, different initiatives happening outside, and essentially, you know, when we could somehow make it work within a village setting, with the different sort of like global networks projects that can essentially work in a local setting. I guess like bringing out again into like city level or regional level or global level, that could be like an interesting sort of like feedback loop. So, yeah.
And maybe also another critical aspect I want to ask about is funding. So besides this award, which we will forward you money, what are the other kind of ways you get to push your project forward?
Well, it's kind of hard to say that is yeah, it's a problem. Is it the real really problem? Because sometimes yeah, you have to deal with the foundations, with some strategies or some communities that support your idea now and try to believe that. But so Ginger, I would like to play one more time the video because I think that people probably understand uh, just video, not talking anymore, but just playing the video and try to perceive more than a visual.
Okay.
Just to
Yeah,
yeah.
let's all take a little silent moment. Oops.
Go back.
Right.
Get one more to the back. One more to the back.
There we go.
That's sound.
They have a sound. I can't.
Yeah.
Somebody turn up the volume.
So thank you, Ginger. And that's what I say that we have to understand, not in the way to just really replace. And we have to understand to enhance and to create and to imagine a better futures.
Yeah, Daniel, this is our sonic field, but we also looked at the speaker sculpture project, you know, that
Yeah, for sure.
has that kind of same, I think, vibe. And the video presentation here was short, but you know, actually, when I met with um, Benito over there, of the creator, he was so passionate, you know, as an artist, you know, about that. He just wants people to play, and
For
he's
sure.
like, I just want my loudspeakers in these public spaces for people to play. So that kind of expression, I think that type of permission to be able to play and be loud is something that's also very much, I think, in the spirit itself, that we want to promote more, and in terms of like hearing more of like people's voices in different ways, um, capture their signals in different ways, and then to really create like the community that we want. Um, and with that said, I think everyone here, you know, joining the round table here today, and as also a shout out, the whole Fab City Award is also a community, a collective effort. So looking for sponsors all the time. We would love to support more in the next round to keep promoting, recognizing these projects from all around the world, and award them, you know, with the support to keep continuing their project. And also, the jury panel this year has grown to 32, and we're super honored to represent that big jury board here, as all volunteers, you know, to share, to give their precious time to look at, evaluate, and review all these projects. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you all.
Yeah. Ah, it's a picture, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. We'll have a short break, half an hour break. We'll be back at 11. So make sure to be back because we're having a great conversation between Tomas, Neil, and Ken Larson. So today there's not going to be Faber-size. We'll rest a bit today, but make sure to get your coffee or tea. So see you in 30 minutes. Thank you all. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you have some coffee, tea. So, the science of making cities. Now over. So, please welcome to the stage to Tomás Diez, founder and executive chairman of the Fab City Foundation. Welcome to the stage Kent Larson, director of city science at the MIT Media Lab, and Neil Gershenfeld, director of the MIT Center for Bits and Atoms. So over to you. Huh?
Thank you, Josefina. Just if you can go back in the slides. Yeah, I think you heard in the morning a little bit more about the latest push that we're doing from Fab City to accomplish the challenge that was launched in Barcelona in 2014. There is a lot to be done, and there is a lot of efforts that need to happen globally with you. But also, it seems that a little bit of extra push will be really, really, really useful for taking the big challenge into reality. This session is called The Science of Making Cities, and it's aimed to talk about that challenge and announce something at the end. I wanted to say something that's something on my own. Making cities is not like making things in the lab. A city is, making a city takes thousands of years. It's been proved that making a city from scratch, you might disagree or not, we will see.
Oh, I agree.
It's it's been more failures than successes in the past. So this is a slightly different conversation, I think, about when we talk about making in the cities. Different time, the time and space constraints are quite different. And with that, I would like to welcome, the one, my kind of, I don't know how to call it, but as many of us here, Neil, mentor, tutor, and also kind of push instrument to make this a reality. And then we will hear from Ken. So Neil, over to you. Thank you.
So I want to describe how we've been trying to make a stool with one leg or with two legs, and it kept falling over. And starting today, we're going to make a stool with three legs. So before 2014, I forget exactly when, around 2010, Vicente Gallart brought Xavier Trias to meet me at MIT. He was running to be mayor of Barcelona. And at a whiteboard in my building was the first time we wrote Pito de Dito. And that was the idea that Barcelona is a product to trash a conversion device. Products in, trash out. Products go in one side, trash goes out the other. And we wanted to turn it to a Dito, data in, data out. Data comes and go, but the things stay and get recycled and remanufactured. And so that was the origin of Pito to Dito. Trias became the mayor, Vicente became the city architect, and then Fab 10 was in 2014, and there was a particular moment of Vicente, Tomas, and I talking, and we said we needed something for the mayor to do. And so we said, let's have the mayor push a button. And well, what should the button do? Well, let's make a countdown to urban self-sufficiency. And then we picked 40 years, not with any research, but just to be longer than any one government, so they could sign up for it, but short enough to still be in our lifetime so we could see it. So we made up 40 years without a lot of thought. And we had a ceremony where Mayor Trias pushed a button and he had no idea why he was doing it, and the clock started. So that was the birth, but it was the concept of a 40-year countdown to urban self-sufficiency. So fast forward, there's a Fab City Foundation. Cities all over the world have signed up. However, in retrospect, we made it too easy. You push the button and everybody claps, but there's no requirement to track your progress, was the problem we made. And so ever since, I would nag Tomas to say, you're not tracking progress. Eventually, though, I realized I was wrong to, it wasn't simply nagging Tomas. Nobody has the data. If you ask a city what goes in and what goes out and are you measuring progress against it, the data was not being collected. No cities do that. So just on my side, I started a collaboration with Manuel Moritz, Tobias Redlich at Helmut Schmidt University and colleagues with Hamburg, Boston case studies, where we took particular aspects of the city and tried to really measure what goes in, what goes out, look at how you get the data. Then I would nag Tomas again, saying, you have all this Fab City stack, but it's built on sand. Nobody's doing the base enabling technology to hold the thing up. But again, I was wrong to just nag Tomas. What I realized is a ton of work has to go in to the enabling technology. It's not a demo, it's a big project. So later this morning, you'll hear about HITECH, the Hygiene Technology Project, that's been marrying Benno and Peru in the Amazon with Procter & Gamble at sustainable production of local hygiene. And yesterday we mentioned the furniture testbed. And just to unpack that one slightly, making furniture is a favorite DIY project in Fab Labs, but that's far from this, meaning we need to study scaling, how much furniture gets consumed, what are the raw materials that go in, how much can you produce, how quickly you produce, what is the waste from it. We need to raise the skills from what's obviously a DIY Fab Lab flat pack project to celebrate professional furniture making at that skill level in Fab Labs and deploy it at scale and measure it. And so it'll need everything you heard everybody's been doing. Like, Vanessa's been doing wonderful work on furniture making. You saw Tom at Hatchspace. Much bigger effort now to really do that at scale, to have an impact and measure an impact. And so all that leads up to the three legs of the stool are the launch of a Fab City science collaboration where CBA can contribute as we've done on the enabling technology. Our skill set isn't the measurement. We know how to make the machines. Fab City has been deploying, testing, scaling, organizing. And then the missing piece, which is now the lead in to introduce my colleague Kent. And for years, we've said we should work together. And it took bringing 1,000 people to campus to get us to sit next to each other and agree to work together, is measuring and modeling. And so for that, Kent.
Wow, thank you. All right, well, Neil, I'm happy to be the third leg, and I'm excited to see where this goes. I want to talk a little bit about local manufacturing and some of our thoughts on how we build these urban performance models. But first, let me just tell you a little bit about our city science group at the MIT Media Lab. If you enter our lab, and we're on the third floor at the Media Lab, you'll see these projects, these physical tables, we call them cityscopes for projects around the world. And on the back displays, some of the major thematic areas that we're focused on. One of them is our City Science Network. And so we now have these labs around the world, and it's a little bit different than the Fab network in that these are operating labs with a director and staff. They typically a cooperation agreement with the university for 3 years. They fund us to the extent that we now have a team of almost 30 people collectively. We're now being a little more proactive at expanding this network. These are all the organizations, the cities where we have typically universities that we're negotiating with to expand our network. But what I mainly want to talk about is this urban performance model. And we roughed this out a couple of years ago. We updated it a bit for COP30 in Belém earlier in the year, and we started with this number, 2.5 tons of CO2. That's the average carbon budget for everybody on the planet through now in 2050 if we're to have an 80% chance of limiting global warming to 2 degrees centigrade. That's just from numbers out of the IPCC report. Then we looked at Kendall Square, where we work, and it's roughly 17. So that is, not, that's not approaching the global goal. Now this is operational and embodied. That's very important. So this would require a 7x reduction to achieve that goal. So we built a model that had these components. You can see them on this horizontal line here, where you can dial in the degree of impact of a particular intervention. So for example, 100% electric vehicles, et cetera. Now, if you look at this module down on the end, this was really kind of a placeholder. We called it local resources. So we were thinking about local production of food, water, sanitation, but also other things. We didn't build out that, that module. We need help for that. And a lot of it is because the data is just not available to do that well. But as a thought experiment for Kendall Square, we said, let's just crank everything up to 100% and see what happens. So we decarbonized the grid according to the Massachusetts roadmap, and that got us from 17 to about 16.3. And by the way, I should point out, if you do that, we're also looking not just at the environmental impact, but at the social and the economic impact on a local community. So that has a good environmental impact, almost no social impact, and arguably even a negative economic impact locally. Okay, then we said 100% electric vehicles. We replaced all the internal combustion engines for vehicles entering and leaving MIT, and about 40,000 people commute in every day, so this was significant. That only got us down to about 16 because there's a tremendous amount of embodied energy in the vehicle. 79% of the power to the grid in Cambridge is non-renewable, so the numbers don't work. In fact, I've decided to keep driving my 10-year-old Volvo. Actually, the numbers work out much better environmentally than to replace it with an electric vehicle. Hybrid work, we assumed that maybe 50% of the people would work remotely. Turns out people use more air conditioning, they drive more locally. That didn't have much of an impact. Then we said, let's take all the older buildings and do 100% deep energy retrofit, new HVAC lighting, insulation, glazing, et cetera. But again, you're replacing materials that still have a useful life with those that have quite a bit of embodied energy. And in fact, a lot of times when people run the numbers, they amortize it over 100 years, and the numbers don't work very well. Then we did something really radical. We said, what if we could build housing in Kendall Square for everybody that lived there? Effectively eliminating commuting. That had a really profound impact. Now we're down to around 11, but people still need to have access to all the amenities they need in daily life, shopping and schools and the like. So those two together had this really profound social and economic and environmental impact. Then we said, let's let people live large in less space. So this is our startup, Ori Living. You can see the bed drops down from the ceiling. You have office on demand, walk-in closet. We launched this as a startup about 10 years ago. We're now in over 60 cities. We had funding from Alphabet and IKEA, partnership with Marriott to reinvent the hotel room. Now this is furniture. This could be built locally and just small.
I have to ask though, what
motors.
happened to that person?
This was we didn't shoot this video. I found this on TikTok we rented this out as an Airbnb apartment, and this guy just posted it on TikTok. But I liked it, so I use it. Then we said lightweight mobility. So we have this project to build very lightweight autonomous vehicles because you still need some kind of mechanized mobility, even if you live near where you work and live near your amenities. So this was a little vehicle. Actually, you can see it and two others at the E14 lobby. This was fabricated at the CBA shop. And I'll talk more about mobility in a minute. Then we said plant-based diet. It turns out the American diet alone is over 2.5 tons of CO2 per person per year. The global goal, as you remember. So we said, well, thought experiment. Nobody eats meat in the district, and that saved about as much as 100% electric vehicles. High density power, we looked at the possibility now of 100% renewable energy through small modular nuclear or ultimately fusion that had a nice environmental impact, but again, no economic, no social impact locally. Okay, these are the community scale interventions. Then these are the things we didn't model. And you see right at the end is local manufacturing. That should be in the community side, right? I'm not sure what those numbers are. So that's why I'm excited about doing a collaboration. Okay, so the greatest impact were walkable access from homes to jobs and to amenities, but I think the next frontier for our model is local manufacturing.
How did you calculate the size of that ring for local manufacturing?
We guessed. We didn't know. I mean, we did some literature research, and there's some people that have guessed at it, and you know, I think it's probably close if it was developed to the extreme, but we didn't calculate it. So let's talk a little bit about local manufacturing. So I'm really interested in, first of all, what can a city make? You know, what is possible? And maybe equally important, what should they make of all those things are possible? And then ultimately, in our model, how could you quantify the social and the economic and the environmental benefits of local production? I mean, that's really the research question that we're interested in. So this is just a quick take on the things that might be possible to produce locally. And actually, each one of these can be a module in our model. And we would love to find people that could drill down into each of these. And if you have any ideas, reach out to me or to Tomas or to Neil. We'd love to bring you in. In fact, that's our vision, is to build an open source model where we can have a distributed group of researchers that are all trying to optimize particular models and find the data that's needed. Let's just take a minute and look at mobility and transport.
Sorry, just leave that up for a minute, because I think this is a really important to do from today would be a divide and conquer. That if I look across this room, we could have teams in each box. This is too much for any one group, but it'd be a really, just choreographing all of you to divide and conquer that would be a great outcome from this session.
Yeah. And it's way too much for my little research group at the Media Lab. But I think it's really critical, and this could have some high impact. So we'll talk a little bit about one of the prototypes we built over the years. It's the persuasive electric vehicle. The first idea we had, we didn't build this prototype, but this was a folding three-wheeler that would dock in a bike share station like the local bike, and it would expand the ridership of people because it's more stable and you're semi-protected from the weather. Then we, starting about 2015, we thought, well, we can use light autonomy. We could actually make this vehicle autonomous. So this actually was fabricated down in the shop. A little model that had two modes. One was the autonomy mode, where it was closed and then it opened up when there's a rider. Then we built our first full-scale prototype. And again, you can see this at the Media Lab. The idea is that it's a lightweight autonomous vehicle that's a good citizen. It behaves naturally in shared spaces with people. And ultimately, I think within 8 or 10 years, human drivers will be banned from central cities because autonomous vehicles are so much more, so much safer. And also you can reclaim the street because going back to something like streets were 120, 150 years ago, which were shared spaces. So here, this was for an exhibit at the Cooper Hewitt where the headlights make eye contact, signaling its intention. It changes colors, so we would have fun with that. And again, this was all prototyped in our lab with a lot of the components purchased from Shenzhen, but the actual physical enclosure and the structure was all fabricated down in the shop. Then we made a little bit more refined version, which you call like an Uber. It has all of the sensing that a conventional autonomous vehicle has, only dialed down for low speed operation. Here it's in donkey mode, it's following them. this is then the fabrication. This was quite a sophisticated piece of hardware. So we took this more polished prototype, and this is something I did literally this morning, trying to imagine what we could produce locally. Certainly the frame and the rain screen we could do locally. The body panels, these swappable modules that can be a child seat or a conditioned box for takeout food delivery. The seat, the rims could be produced locally. Probably not the
Yes,
tires and the
tires.
chain, although.
Yes, tires, yes, chain.
Okay, good. That's why we need to do this.
And the motors you can do.
Okay. What about the LiDAR?
Let's see, we need components from our friends in Shenzhen, but building the LiDAR system is local.
Okay, steering mechanism.
Sure.
Okay. Motor controller.
Motor controller, absolutely.
Okay.
We do those all the time.
Okay.
The processor chips are global for now. With Cameron, we talked about the roadmap for the processor. Wiring, absolute. Oh, let's see. Wires you wouldn't make locally, but wiring harnesses, absolutely. Batteries, there's interesting battery technology you could do locally, like zinc air batteries.
Okay.
Motor, absolutely, you can do local. Pedals, absolutely local.
Okay.
I would like to say something. It's a yes, but when? I think it will be interesting. Like, what's the transition, right? Like, it's possible, but within, we're talking about decades.
So the problem in what I just did with Kent is up until now, this is what we've been doing. I just said we could do the motor.
But what should we do?
And so well, there's two parts. I said we can do the motor, and this weekend we could do a workshop, and we could go in my shop and make a motor. But exactly to both of your sides, the question then is that the right thing to make? How many motors can you make? What's the implications of making the motor? How do we scale the motor? That's what we haven't been doing. So you should sort of the yes, somewhere between yes and yes but. Listen to me when I say we can make the motor, but then there's all the things that follow. It's not enough to say I could make the motor.
Right. Okay, so that's a nice research project there, figuring that out. So what I'm interested in is not just dealing with supply chain issues, and actually this is a really interesting time to be thinking about this as supply chains get more fragile with kind of incoherent tariffs and war and political dysfunction and all of that. Also with, the threat that AI poses with jobs, et cetera. So I think the potential benefits socially is it builds local skills, creates local jobs. It enables these vehicles or any product, even if many of the components are mass produced globally, to be customized and refined locally. There certainly is an economic benefit, I think, creating local work, reducing dependence on for servicing that's outside of the district, makes a much more resilient supply chain if many of the key components are produced locally. It also builds local wealth. You don't have companies extracting wealth from a community. More of that wealth can be kept in the community. And then it has certainly some environmental benefits. If you can reduce the garbage, extend the life, enable reuse of components. So there are a lot of benefits. How to quantify this now is a challenge. So we have this, these guys have this Fab Foundation. So there's a global network with the fabrication infrastructure. Lots of makers had some impact. We have also our global network of cities. We do a lot of work to secure the data, to build the sensing that we need to collect data. We do simulation modeling. We have this urban performance model we're working on. And we also do a lot with community engagement and helping local people use expert tools to make local decisions. So you're balancing some top-down expertise with some bottom-up innovation and engagement and priorities. So again, the big question is, how might distributed production improve the social, economic, environmental performance of cities? and let's figure out how to do it. Thank you.
And for extra credit, what philanthropies and foundations want to fund that effort? It, not as a joke, we're looking at funding new work in this.
I wanted to jump into something that when we talk about local production, you were talking about Kendall Square, right? Before in your analysis.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and by the way, sorry to interrupt you, but let me say that model was very hard to build, and it required collecting a lot of data from Kendall Square that is not readily available in other cities.
Yep.
And so I think Neil mentioned this earlier. It's the lack of data which is really much of the bottleneck.
No, we know very well that challenge is that when, maybe 10 years ago, Neil asked, you should measure. I say, it's not that easy. You're not going to find data. Right. Then in 2024, he did it with Hamburg, and he found that it's a very, very hard task. But then
we have a lab in Hamburg, so we've helped them secure that data there as well.
So for me, the question would be like, the city, or you're talking about Kendall Square that sits within Cambridge, which sits between Greater Boston, which sits within Massachusetts. I wonder what would be the local production range in which we can say we're reducing millions of kilometers and this amount of fossil fuel consumption for a product to reach here, and how much we are willing to accept. It's like we're going to go for millions to 100, but that's not at Kendall Square. That would be at Greater Boston. So I wonder when have your thoughts come into that, like the distance?
Well, I don't know. We have to think a lot more about it. I just want to flag one thing, that even if I was right in my assessment of what is global, not as optimistic as Neil, the things that I had green as local are quite a bit greater than 50% of the volume and the weight. And if you could just get rid of those heavy components, the requirement to ship them overseas, and get rid of that supply chain, and just have lighter weight, easily shipped components, I think the numbers would be possible. The more, of course, you can produce locally, the better.
There's also a back to the future component. I remember when Vicente Gallart was the city architect at Barcelona, they had started looking at food and aquaponics and hydroponics and urban agriculture and how much they could produce, and were struggling to get enough food production, and then started wondering about this advanced technology of growing things in fields. And then they noticed all around Barcelona were fallow fields that used to be used for farming, and they said, oh, right. That's how you do it. And so there is a back to the future component where local sustainability was how we used to live.
And the city that's gone the farthest with that is probably Amsterdam. So they've converted, even in a relatively cold climate with not a tremendous amount of sunlight, they've converted many of those fields to greenhouses. And they augment the hydroponic production with LED lighting when needed, and it's worked out well, and these companies are making money, at least producing high value perishable vegetables locally, which I think is easily done. And in fact, even here in Cambridge, a lot of the lettuce that you get is produced locally hydroponically. So, oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and also Neil, I think like it would be nice to have you have a 4-step roadmap for Fab Labs to accomplish its mission, to be able to program live and not needing machines and materials is the same thing in computation. Right. What about city steps and how the transition happens?
So yeah, Fab 0 is big machines like I have in my shop. Fab 1 is Fab Labs, where it fills a room. Fab 2 is machines making machines, the hobbyist stage. Fab 3 is from printing and cutting to assembling and disassembling digital materials, reducing the supply chain. Fab 4 is self-reproducing systems, which is where you get the exponential scalability. So that's my version. What's yours?
Mine, I think like before 2054, there is a transition in which we don't replace things that already exist, but we hack them. We enhance their computation. We replace slowly their materials as long as they come to end of life. And by 2054, are you going to be ready to program materials in 2054? Because we depend on you.
Yes.
Okay, so then we won't need machines, materials, and computers that will be the same. What's your vision? And yours, Kent?
Well, we have lots of missions, more generally for the group, but I think for us moving forward is to help cities set priorities for what is basically the biggest bang for the effort and the funding to improve the livability, the entrepreneurship, the sustainability, the resilience of cities, and try to quantify that. And I do believe that this local manufacturing will be a key part of that. Not the entire picture, but some important component that we absolutely need to work on.
And we're now to the blinking red light stage of timeout. But with Kent signed up to own the modeling and the scaling integration, which is a big piece, I think so if you know me, often we end meetings with the homework assignments. I think the homework assignment is the divide and conquer, to take all of these different things that go in Kent's slide and have teams working on them as test beds to then feed into Ken's synthesis of the model and Tomas's choreographing of deploying, scaling, and measuring.
Yeah, thank you. I ask you to stay 1 second. Neil started talking about this moment.
So,
volume up.
You don't get off that easily. I'd like to give you a challenge.
Volume.
In Peru, your deputy mayor very dramatically ripped off his shirt. You don't have to do that. Revealing a commitment to turn Barcelona into a fab city and host this meeting. So that's done. So what's next? Well, coming out of the work leading up to the meeting and in the meeting with Tony and Vicente and colleagues, has come the idea that Barcelona, Fab City was easy. But the hard thing is for Barcelona to become the world's first self-sufficient city. We decided, projecting from the history of Barcelona, that'll take 40 years to get down to carefully defined self-sufficiency. And so, are you up for the challenge? Well, if you come over into my lab, you'll see a countdown clock. Now, hold on. Let me explain what's going to happen. When you click that, there's a new web domain we created for the meeting, and it's going to start a 40-year clock. And so when you click that button, you're committing to the next 40 years of Barcelona becoming the world's first self-sufficient city. Are you ready to push the button?
Yes.
Ready, set, go.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's get things rolling. Let's see what that red button is about, actually. So I would like to welcome to the stage to my colleague Lars Petrova Taylor, our network lead, who will guide us through this year's Fab Cities pledge ceremony, joined by Sherry Lassiter, President and CEO of the Fab Foundation, Neil Gershenfeld, you already know him, and Tomas Diaz. So welcome to the stage, Lars.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Great. Okay. So I'm very excited to be hosting this pledge ceremony today. I'm a maker myself, and we have some wonderful guests today. And I'd like to say a big thank you again to Sherry, Neil, and Thomas for being part of this huge milestone. We have now over 60 cities globally in the Fab City network. And today we have 5 Fab cities joining us from Africa, India, and Mexico. So I believe this will go to the next slide. Okay, just a quick mention because we have some fantastic trophies that you can see on the table here. I'd like to give a special thanks to Terra, Fab Lab Peru, and I will try my best with the pronunciation here, with Ibero-Americano de Diseño Industrial. So thank you very much for they've made these incredible trophies. These are a representation of Zakim Bunker Hill Bridge here in Boston, who was a civil rights leader who worked really, really hard to unite different diverse communities. So this is what's represented in the trophies. So today I would like to first up welcome Fab City Monterrey, Mexico's industrial capital, turning its manufacturing muscle towards local circular production. We have a 1-minute video, and then I will welcome out our representative all the way from Monterrey in Mexico.
Hola, soy Hugo Espuricueta, secretario de Cultura, Educación y Recreación Social del municipio de General Escobedo, Nuevo León. Haciendo equipo con este proyecto con la Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León, de la Facultad de Arquitectura de la Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León, Empresarios Unidos AC y Fab City Monterrey, buscamos construir una ciudad incluyente, con innovación tecnológica y trabajo con el emprendimiento local. Sabemos que haciendo equipo, sinergia con nuestros entes, podemos lograr un impacto positivo local, nacional e internacional.
En nuestra comunidad, esta visión ya está tomando forma. Desde el Fab Lab en la Facultad de Arquitectura de la Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León, trabajamos para acercar la fabricación digital, el diseño y la innovación tecnológica a estudiantes, emprendedores y comunidades. La incorporación de General Escobedo como municipio piloto representa una gran oportunidad para ampliar este ecosistema de innovación. Nuestro objetivo es que cada vez más ciudadanos puedan aprender, experimentar y desarrollar proyectos que mejoren su entorno. Así, desde la colaboración entre academia, iniciativa privada y gobierno, seguimos construyendo una ciudad más creativa, más participativa y preparada para los retos del futuro.
Fantastic. Okay, I would like to welcome Maria Teresa Cedillo Salazar to the stage, please. Yeah.
Hello, I am Maria Teresa Cedillo Salazar, Dean of the Faculty of Architecture at Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León in Monterrey. I am so proud to be here. I'm so happy. For more than a century, my city has been known for its manufacturing capabilities, steel, glass, industry, and above all, the hard work that built them. But Monterrey has always been more than its factories. It's a city of entrepreneur people who see a problem and do something about it. Today, we sign this pledge to channel that spirit towards something new, a city that designs and produces of what it needs close to home. Fab City Monterrey brings together our universities, our industry, our governments, and above all, our makers, so that knowledge is shared and anyone can create. We know this is only the beginning, but we are proud to be alongside all of you. Thank you for having us. Let's build the future and let's make it locally. Hands in action. Thank you.
Congratulations. I'll take you to the trophy. Yeah. Yes, and we have our trophy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Okay, next up, over to Goa. Goa is a fast-growing maker ecosystem, bringing distributed fabrication to India's west coast.
Goa has a special way of living called Susigar. Susigar stands for a life of contentment, slowness, that organically creates an environment for creativity and making. And hence, Goa has always attracted people from a creative bent of mind, whether it be artists, designers, architects, engineers, makers from across the country to find a home here. 6 years ago, Makers Asylum moved from the big city of Mumbai to Goa and stayed put because of the same mindset and the same community that believes more in making rather than consuming. Over the last 12 years, Makers Asylum has been building an ecosystem for makers. We've done projects like the M19 initiative, where over 300 volunteers across the country worked on making over 1 million face shields in a matter of 49 days. Now, that is a great example of decentralized distributed manufacturing, but being locally made by makers for their specific states or cities. Similarly, we worked on a project called the M1902, where over 600 volunteers from 6 countries worked together in a decentralized manner to work on open source oxygen concentrators, shared knowledge to be able to create locally once again. And this is exactly what the power of this decentralized open ecosystem is all about, and everything that the Fab City movement stands for. Now, with the support of the Goa government, we have this amazing opportunity to set up a physical hub, the Design Village campus, to be able to house this movement of hands-on creativity, localized manufacturing, and the entire spirit of the Fab City initiative, giving this creative energy a home that it deserves.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I would like to welcome FAB to the stage, please.
Thank you, everyone. Let's make Goa Fab City. Let's go.
Go. Congratulations.
Ready? Let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
There we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. Nice.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, now I'm going to take you all the way to Cape Town. So we have Kirsten on live stream watching, so I would like to say hello to her especially. She couldn't make it today, but we have a representative for Cape Town that I will introduce next. South Africa's creative coastal hub. So building distributed, community-led maker infrastructure for circular, publicly accessible production. So a very exciting project. And I have a video now. Kirsten's prepared a video and a speech, so it's a 2-in-1, so it's a little bit longer. And then we will have Andrew Lamb, who is representing Cape Town.
When people think about Cape Town, they often think of Table Mountain, our coastline, or our extraordinary natural beauty. What is perhaps less visible is the creativity that exists in every neighborhood. A city of nearly 5 million people shaped by many cultures, histories, and traditions of making. A city where innovation and inequality exist side by side, constantly reminding us that the future needs to be built with everyone, not only for everyone. As we explored what a Fab City could mean for Cape Town, we found ourselves returning to a familiar place. Not a makerspace, not a university, a public library. Cape Town is home to 102 public libraries, welcoming more than 7 million visits every year. They are among the most accessible civic spaces in the city, places where people of all ages already come to learn, connect, and discover. Rather than asking how to build entirely new infrastructure, we began asking a different question. How might we build on the infrastructure we already trust? That question led us to the MakerTech pilot. Together with the Western Cape Library Service, Africa Makerspaces, Fashion Revolution South Africa, Menzies Design Lab, and a growing network of community partners, we're exploring how libraries can also become places for making, repairing, designing, and sharing practical knowledge. Not by changing what libraries are, but by expanding what they can offer. A sewing machine beside a bookshelf, a repair cafe in a community hall, young people learning digital fabrication alongside traditional craft, design becoming something people participate in rather than simply consume. For us, our starting point is textiles. The textile sector reflects many of the challenges and opportunities facing cities today. Globally, the industry is responsible for significant environmental impacts, while less than 1% of textiles are recycled back into new clothing. Yet, textiles are also deeply personal. They connect culture, identity, skills, and livelihoods. They offer one of the most tangible ways for communities to experience repair, reuse, and local production. Cape Town already has remarkable people doing this work: makers, designers, librarians, educators, repair communities, and entrepreneurs. Our role is not to create that energy, but to connect it. That perhaps is what this pledge represents. Not the beginning of a project, but the recognition of a community. Not a promise that we have all the answers, but a commitment to learn openly, to share generously, and to contribute Cape Town's perspective to a global conversation. The Fab City network has always been strengthened by the diversity of its members. Every city brings different histories, different realities, and different ideas about what local production can look like. Today, Cape Town is proud to add its voice to that conversation. We look forward to learning with you, collaborating with you, and contributing to a future that is not only more regenerative and resilient, but more connected through knowledge, creativity, and shared purpose. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to Andrew Lamb for representing us as partly Cape Townian and a big supporter of the work that Africa Makerspaces and Fab City Cape Town will be doing in the future.
Fantastic. So I'd like to welcome Andrew Lamb to the stage, please. Especially big thank you for joining on us in person as well. So here's your trophy. Okay, I'm ready. Go. Ah.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, we have something a little bit different today. We have two cities in the same country. We have Fab City, Ghana. We have both Kumasi and Accra. Neither, unfortunately, could be here in person due to restrictions with visa. So they are also joining online on the live stream. We are going to start off with Kumasi. So if I just, 1 second. There we go. Okay. So Kumasi is Ghana's engineering heartland. So we're turning the Suame magazine's informal manufacturing towards local circular production. You're going to see a video coming up next for Kumasi, and then we will introduce Accra afterwards. So 1 second here. This is Gideon from Kumasi.
We are super excited to run Fab City Kumasi. Kumasi, for a long time, have been known as a space for making. So what people see as waste, we see as raw materials. And given that, if you go to Swami Magazine, we have a lot of people in the informal sector that are leveraging on waste material scraps to build things. In addition to this, we have the universities like Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and then the Kumasi Technical University that is also coming up with high-end engineers, churning them out every year. Then we also have the innovation hubs like Kappa Space,
that is running maker spaces and Fab Labs to support innovators that are poised to make things. Leveraging on all this, what we foresee by 2054 is that the city of Kumasi will be able to produce about 70 to 80% of the things that we consume locally.
Okay, and now we have Fab City Accra, so Ghana's coastal capital, shifting from consumption economy towards local circular production, led by youth and women. And the representative for Accra is Na Bakor, who is also on the live stream. And in person, we have Ginger representing both Accra and Kumasi for Fab City Ghana. So here is Accra's video.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Ghana. My name is Nabo Kokwati, co-founder and chief operating officer of Jenny Streetwise Organization, representing Fab City Accra, Ghana. It is an honor to join the Fab City Network and stand alongside cities around the world committed to building resilient, inclusive, and sustainable local economies. Through our work, we empower women and young people with practical skills, promote circular economic practices, support local production, and transform waste into opportunities for community development. By taking the Fab City Pledge, we commit to strengthening local innovation, expanding digital fabrication, creating opportunity for entrepreneurs, and building communities that produce more of what they consume. We are very proud to represent Accra and look forward to collaborating with the global Fab City community to create a more sustainable and inclusive future. Thank you.
Okay, before I welcome Ginger, I'm just going to show the speech from both Gideon and Na.
Hello, everyone at FAB26. We wish we could be with you, but because of visa issues, we couldn't join you, but we are with you online. On behalf of Hyperspace and the city of Kumasi, we want to express our deepest gratitude for officially announcing Ghana's entry into the Fab City Global Network.
And from Jenny Streetwise Organization and the vibrant city of Accra, we recognize as Fab City means the word to our team, our communities, and the entire national innovation ecosystem.
This recognition marks a major milestone for us. Across Kumasi and Accra, our hubs, our academic partners, and local maker communities are fully mobilized and ready to put distributed manufacturing into action.
Being aligned Accra and Kumasi under Fab City Ghana, we are combining grassroots community power with technological innovation. We look forward to active knowledge sharing, co-designing, opening source solutions, and exchanging practical models with cities across the global network.
Well, as we join this global movement, we affirm our full commitment to the Fab City Pledge, building self-reliant, resilient urban systems that produce locally while connecting globally.
Together, we are excited to work alongside all of you to transform our cities into self-sustaining hubs of innovation and production by 2054.
Thank you once again for this incredible honor and trust.
We can't wait to collaborate with you all. Oyiwaladon, Medasi, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to welcome Ginger to the stage, please. We're very grateful that you're in person so that Fab City Ghana can now pledge. Took the long route, it's okay. Here we go. So, there we go, trophies. Both Accra and Kumasi. Go.
Next to Chad.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Ginger, you wanted to say a quick word of how you know Fab City Ghana? The microphone is just here. If you.
This one? The microphone here?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say it's extremely honored to represent Ghana here. I met the Ghanaian friends actually back in Berlin a few months ago over Festival of Culture was at the Global Innovation Gathering. And it's an extreme honor they trust me to do this for them. So thank you and to international friendship over Fab City Network. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. Okay, now I would like to welcome back all of our fantastic new Fab City representatives so we can have a group photo. They should be coming through the middle any minute now. There we go. Round of applause, please, for our wonderful Fab Cities. I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate you coming in person, and congratulations, everybody. Pleasure.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Now we'll have a short project update. So please welcome to the stage Tomás Vivanco, Director of Fab Lab Austral UC, and Ekaterina Kormilitsina, Research Assistant at the MIT Center for Bits and Atoms.
Hello, I'm Tomás Vivanco from the School of Design and Architecture of UC Chile and member of the Fab City Research Lab.
And I'm Kat. I'm a graduate student with the Center for Bits and Atoms. And we'll give you a brief update into a project that we've been working on for a couple of days. And we'll stand, because the energy of standing is better. Wow, such a flashback. We were here in Mexico, right at this conference when we announced this project. And we gave an intro of what we wanted to do with high tech, which was a project around hygiene technologies and traditional knowledge, and what happens if Fab Labs and researchers and indigenous communities and industry sponsors come together, and how we can figure out a way to support each other, work together, and work into hygiene technologies knowledge that has existed in indigenous communities for years and support them in making their technologies. When we first started, that was the framing. It was how can we help them make things? How can a Fab Lab benefit in making bad? How can a Fab Lab help these communities help with biology? And then we went there and we did a lot of conversations. We met the communities. Benno and I worked together, and Tomás as well, with many indigenous communities to have these conversations. And one of the major outcomes from these conversations was they didn't need help making things. What they needed help with was testing things and testing the efficacy of the products that they already knew worked, but couldn't really have these global conversations. And this became a very interesting collaboration for consultancy, for research together, both between MIT researchers and our lab, and also Procter & Gamble, that was a research collaborator of ours that was really interested in figuring out how can they support these communities as a knowledge sharing participation, where it wasn't really about immediately creating products, but it was very much about education and sharing and supporting these communities now and then further down the line. So we went on a research trip and we visited communities. We went all the way in the Amazon rainforest, and we thought about what could help them test. So we looked at prior art with low-cost testing equipment that could survive in the lab, and then we made our own list. And we took these machines with us, and we looked at what might benefit them, what would work, what wouldn't work, and what could you do with these machines once they were in the forest. And this was a huge collaboration with Benno and a huge effort on his side, and he will speak in the next panel more about this, about creating these forest labs with the communities based on their needs, based on their desires, and the efficacy science that we did for specific products, which was mosquito repellents and shampoo and cleanliness, and how the machines that we brought there helped in the education of that. So multiple forest labs were set up, some in the Amazon rainforest, some in the central forest. They had different needs. The Amazon forest ones needed more electrical stability. The central forest ones had more physical infrastructure to them. And what could you do with them? What can you do with the machines that you bring in? One of our focus points was mosquitoes. So it was about catching mosquitoes and testing repellency. And again, it was a lot of working together, sharing knowledge, figuring out how to best benefit the communities, and figuring out that some of them work so much better than anything that's on the market today, which is so exciting for the communities themselves because it allows them a path forward. And the same for hair care, where it's also how do you test hair care? How do you test that it's working? If you don't have a hydrometer, which is a very, very expensive machine, what can you do with skin microscopy? What can you do with seeing how hydrating something is based on visual indicators of the skin itself? And then there is the aftermath of that, right? You do all this work, you research with the community, you ask them what they want, but there are laws. There is global infrastructure around how does collaborations with indigenous communities work. And the first step of that was during our visits. We did workshops, we did alignment stuff, but there's so much more to it now when there is, even within a research capacity, how do you protect a community even if it wants to reach out to a larger science lab to test the samples that they already have? Because there is a protocol in place. It's the Nagoya protocol, but it is incredibly rigid, it's incredibly strict, and there isn't really a straight path forward. For each country, it's different on collaborations that obviously are there for protective measures, but even beyond the protective measures, it often limits the community to even reach out to a lab and be like, hey, I want you to test this with machines that we don't have access to. So that's what we're working on right now. All of us together with the Peruvian government and with Benno and with P&G, where how do you figure this out? How do you create research agreements that protect everybody and allow for consultancy and collaboration? And that's been the most exciting update of the past 2 months, which is that they're really excited on a policy perspective of creating a straightforward, well, more or less straightforward path forward for also future collaborations and other communities to participate in seeking research collaborations and everything that can follow on from that. And I will pass on to Tomas so that he can talk about the Chile part of this work.
Thank you, Caterina. In the case of Chile, we address this challenge by two sizes. On one hand, we really want to, let's say, remake somehow these P&G products, but also we wanted to build a design methodology that could be globally shared. And you can see the methodology that was published in last year's conference, and you can follow that QR code and download the full article, in which more or less explain step by step the things that I'm going to show today. So we got 7 P&G products, and we invite our friends Oral-B, Gillette Foam, Pantene, a shampoo, Dawn, a soap, Allspice, and Ivory soap. So we got these 7 products and we said, okay, sorry, and I forgot Ariel, not the mermaid, right? So we got these 7 products and we said, okay, these are the most consumed P&G products in Chile, what we can do with them. Because they are centralized, they are mostly petroleum derivatives, the derivatives from petrol-based product compounds, and they don't necessarily adapt to local habits, resources, and cultural practices. So somehow, we have to turn this, in order to turn from this logic from PITO, from products in, trash out, we have to move to DIDO solutions. So the question that we wanted to solve is, can we locally produce bioequivalent global PITO products, that's how we call our P&G products, but integrated local communities, knowledge, and biomass. So strategically what we do is that we did a territorial stacking, passing from a technical problem to a design space. So we focus on when we studied the different bioregions and ecoregions in Chile. Second, we integrate the productive macrozones in the different distribution of Chile. As you might know, Chile is the longest country in the world. We have a huge ecodiversity. We can go from the driest desert in the north to Antarctica. And then at third, we integrate the different indigenous cultures in our design space map, right? So to took this as this territorial stack. So designing as a design process, we define 6-step research through design methodology. First, we decompose each P&G product, trying to understand where the key products or the key components, that were doing the thing that that product was meant to be. In Dorian's words was the job to be done. We need to focus on that job. If the product wasn't solving, for instance, toothpaste is not good for cleaning teeth, that will not be a good toothpaste. Then second, we focus on the analysis of biomass abundance in different macrozones. Third, we active the local innovation ecosystems, considering startups, people that were like handcraft makers, and also companies. Sorry about that image in the middle. Then we experiment a lot with the job to be done, in which we did different prototype testing and measuring the different experience about using the products. Then we did a user validation and testing. This took a lot of iterations trying to redesign this product. And then at the end, we focus on the product development. This was to meant that you can, the idea is that you can perceive products that you can possibly buy in your local shop. So from these 7 PITO products, we transformed them in 7 DIDO solutions. For example, Ariel was transformed to papayay using a key component from papayas that is a local fruit in the north of Chile. The Ivory soup by using some flowers of a specific tree in the center of Chile. We created cuyaco. Then from allspice, by using certain kind of different dusts that you can find in different beaches in the coast of in the Andic zone, we built nature. Then the Dawn soap was transformed to raíces. Pantene, the shampoo, using different plants and roots, we create pantenina. And Gillette foam was transformed in lacustre. And then to close, Oral-B was transformed using a specific clay that is found in an island in the south of Chile into firku, a candies that can clean your teeth while you are eating them. These are some images of the final results of this process. As you can see, there are completely different results, right? They are DIDO solutions, let's say, but they are meant to focus on designing. At the same way, we can make almost anything. We need to focus also on how we finish almost anything and trying to focus, right, in the experience of receiving those solutions. As an invitation, we are doing an exhibition in the 3rd floor of the MIT Museum. That is located in the collections workshop in the 3rd floor that is in the pointed. And tomorrow we're going to do, today, a Q&A session with Kat and Beno.
And Dorian.
And Dorian, sorry. And also I want you to, would like to invite you to try to solve this multiplication, this 7 by 5 by 4 during this afternoon. 7 by 5 by 4 is the architecture that the matrix architecture that with Thomas we define in order to build the Planet I, and it's focused on the 7 layers of the Fab City full stack, 5 territorial scales, and 4 impact pillars. Okay, these are the logic of the framework that is behind everything that we're measuring right now. So tomorrow, so today in the afternoon, we're going to have the paper presentation of the Fab City full stack metrics framework, the architecture behind this. And we're going to do two workshops focused on data. One is data ingestion at 2:30, I think, Thomas. And then the third workshop, the second one is about the collective and the network. And the third Fab City workshop is going to be about measuring the Fab City and connecting sensors into this main dashboard. So we are all welcome to join us in order to understand the architecture behind, to know about which specific metrics you can measure to feed one of these cells. So 7 by 5 by 4 is probably going to be our next year project inside the organization. So thank you very much. That's all.
That's all.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kat. So now we're going to go over to one of my personal favorite topics and people. They're going to talk about ancient intelligence, future cities. So please welcome to the stage Ginger Seng moderating, Beno Juarez bringing the voice of the Peruvian Amazon, and Jean-Luc Pierit, president of the North American Indian Center of Boston.
Going here? Okay. Ooh. Hi, everyone. It's me again.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, everyone. So quick round of intro. My name is Ginger Zhang. I'm the community manager at Seed Studio. I'm based in US and China. But my dream is to travel around the world, visiting different Fab Labs, do different residency AI projects. And I'm super happy to be here with Jean-Luc and Benito today to talk about this, one of my new fascination in ancestral knowledge.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jean-Luc Pierit. I am from the Tunica Biloxi tribe of Louisiana, originally from New Orleans. I now live and work in Boston, where I serve as president of the North American Indian Center of Boston.
Hello, I am Beno. I'm happy to be here from Peru, especially from the Amazon rainforest, where we are collaborating with indigenous people in order to co-create future industry.
Awesome. So yeah, I ran into Megan Smith yesterday, and because of her, I actually changed, like all my slides. But yeah, like we were talking about how, the topic of ancestral knowledge is actually also something me, myself, in my upbringing and in my education, especially, I went to school as an engineer, is something that kind of like never taught in my school. So it was like out of my whole dimension until a few years ago, I actually participated in the Fab City challenges, and really got to know this whole genre. Who here have not seen Moana? Raise your hand. Who has seen Moana, the Disney movie? Okay. So I put it here because a few years ago, I really loved these movies, and it talked about Moana's ancestors and about the Polynesian culture, about, like how her tribe and her people originally were explorers of the world. And then they kind of lost connection with that ancestry, and then become, more of like a land settler. And then, so her whole journey is about finding that ancestral knowledge and release her superpower. So for the Polynesians, before modern navigation, GPS, and all the things, were invented, they used stars and nature to navigate. And that's ancestral knowledge. it's super cool. And this year, I participated in a research expedition in the New Zealand, and we were doing science on the ocean. So living on a boat, and also trying to tackle ocean plastic pollution, how to map that. So it was a crew of like 13 women, and between seasickness, between having to do science on the boat and all the boat crew aspect, we learned sailing. So there's a picture of me sailing, and so I become really fascinated actually in like before. So on this boat, it has kind of like modern navigation technologies and stuff like that. I was like, how did people actually back then, before all these instrumentations were invented, to be able to navigate across the ocean? And again, it's something that you won't be able to really feel until you're actually in deep ocean where you cannot see anything. And when you are holding the hem, also things even like on the land when you hold it, you just go straight, right? But on the ocean, you actually go in 6 different dimensions because there's wave coming at you, there's wind coming at you. So that whole aspect of just living with nature and reading the nature become a fascination of mine. A few more nostalgic moment for those who have been with the Fab network for a while. Another tipping point for me was a few years ago when we had the conference in Bhutan, and I become super fascinated with the fabrics over there. We actually did a Fab City challenge in terms of weaving tradition. The amazing Fab Academy, they did a future fabrics initiative and won the award that time. But that's also the first time when I learned that people actually sew their stories into these fabrics and textiles. So a year later, in 2024, when we were in Mexico, we also did a version of that. And we were able to actually help the local weavers come up with new tools and designs and really use actually 3D printing to help them make new molds, make education kits. So all of these are one of my favorite, practice in the community, leveraging, the skills we have as maker to help create impact.
Thank you. So just a couple of stories in a few minutes. And this is really about sort of like my journey of Fab. And one thing that I actually kind of want to like bring into this discussion is a picture that's not here, but I just kind of want you to visualize something for me is from the last Fab City Challenge that I participated in Puebla. We went out to San Andres, Calpan, and we were asked to kind of like build a project around chiles en nogada and sort of the need of the community for access to water. We went out into the community. We talked to people about sort of their need and the systems that are there from the city and the peoples that are actually like charging these farmers for access to water. And part of our solution, part of the intervention was a sensor kit and sort of how do we actually measure the health of soil, and we were bringing in all of these digital solutions. But when we were talking about the theme of story of land, one thing that I had from that experience was actually holding out the chile itself, the poblano pepper, and then the sensor kit, because both technologies, when we think about the genealogy of these technologies, we're talking about thousands of years of development. We're talking about not just resistors and capacitors and all of the different like inputs and outputs. We're talking about what are those raw earth minerals that go into these devices? Where are these countries? What are the indigenous lands that these things are extracted from? And then you contrast that with the poblano pepper. And you think about like all of the farmers that have cultivated that over thousands of years and generations, and thinking about like what are these technologies together. Sometimes it's very hard for us to hold these truths side by side and integrate them into each other. And so then I'm brought to this picture that I have on the right hand side of the slide here. I actually worked with students from Hampshire College a few years back after I graduated from the Master in Design for Emergent Futures. And through the students and their activism, we started to talk about sort of what are our demands for institutions and what are the obligations of institutions to build relationships with local indigenous communities. And the students, after sort of thinking about policy and all of these sort of like systems approaches, students themselves designed this intervention in which they braided branches from a willow tree and then offered these ribbons to people that would come to their event and write down their personal connection to land. And then you see this actual intervention in action, in which the wind is pushing the ribbons and swinging the willow branches, and we're seeing the actual agency of the land itself. And so that is the whole story of land, picturing ourselves, not intervening within local ecosystems, but actually positioning ourselves and working with more than human relations. And of course, this Saturday we invite everybody here to North American Indian Center of Boston for our part of the Fab Festival, in which you're able to come and learn and share with our local indigenous communities.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean-Luc. And I'd also like to give a shout out to one of our Fab Academy graduate project this year. This is from Fab Lab Kerala, and over here you can see the creator here. He actually leaned into his mother's hand embroidery patterns, and then integrated electronics, C Studio Shell, and then Meshtastic, which are all the different technology we're actually also here workshopping with everyone, getting to know them. But he beautifully integrated that for a new cultural expression. So those are the kind of projects we really love seeing also in the youth, in the younger generation, of how to tap into that ancestral knowledge, to preserve it, to celebrate it, and to express it in a new way. And now we'll pass it on to Benyo to talk about
Thank you.
this.
Well, for many indigenous communities as Achaninkas or Quechuas or Aymaras, the future is not in front of us. To understand it, imagine that you are in front of a river, and what you can see is something that has happened. No? It's the past. You can see the past in front of you. But what is behind you is something that is coming. It's the uncertainty. It's something that you will see. This is the future. The looking of the future, to the ancestral knowledge for indigenous communities is not a romantic action or a resistance to change. It's a very proactive, it's a very creative action. It's to shaping the future with the generations that has created a lot of knowledge. I remember when my father told me when I was child in the jungle, no, in the forest where I grew up, there exists a very sacred and secret tree. It's called Huito or Ana in Achaninka that have many, many properties. For example, kids can use it to protect its teeth for a long, long time. And also adults can use it to make like a temporary tattoos to communicate with itself and with another worlds. But unfortunately, all this biodiversity are disappearing. And also it's disappearing that ancestral knowledge linked to this biodiversity. This is a huge problem because also we are losing potential solutions for today's world and today's challenge. For example, many different global trends like circularity, global circular economy, or regenerative design, interspecies design, are practices that the indigenous communities have been doing for a long, long, long time. But to regenerate is not about just technology. It's a mindset. No? It's to change our relationship between culture and nature. And in this sense, I would love to share with you 3 principles from ancestral intelligence to shape this challenge. One is understand nature not as a property, but as belonging. For indigenous communities, nature It's part of their culture. It's part of the center of their activities. And everything that we do, they increase biodiversity. And there is a symbiotic relationship of respectful and mutual empowerment. And for regeneration, it's important to increase both biodiversity and cultural diversity. In this sense, we add to the biocultural cycle of regeneration the shape of the layer of the technology and digital innovation. It means the forest lab, in the integration of the Fab Lab with the forest, in order to bring capabilities to local communities to innovate. This is thanks to the CBA, the Center for Bits and Atoms, and the PNG collaboration with indigenous communities to explore how can they create from the beginning to the market different products. Another principle is nature is not a material, it's a co-creator, it's a co-founder. No? It means nature has an identity inside the process and also a very clear benefit after this process. We are applying these kind of principles in gastronomy, bioproducts, biomaterials, architecture, etc., integrating many different intelligence, like the ambiental intelligence, ancestral, and artificial intelligence. But here we have a challenge. No? We create a platform to share it, but we have to take care about in what conditions, because if we don't have asymmetrical conditions in between the people that are sharing, we could create inequity or we could create extractivisms. No? So we need to be focused in the governance and also in the sovereignty of the information. This is part of the challenge for everything that we do when we love to open innovation and open platforms. The principle number 3 that we love to share with you is nature is not an object. No? It's a subject. For many communities, nature is not something that it's outside of the community. It's inside. It's the heart of the community. One of the huge paradoxes that we have today in the world is a industry that are creating many products, many data and information, but at the same time, we are losing a lot of biodiversity, a lot of biocultural information. And one of the main reasons is because we consider nature like an object, something that we can explode, overexplode, or even extinct, but this is not happening in the communities. So we are exploring also in the creation of platforms that can measure how much of the product we have to create a feedback with the environment in order to regenerate it. It's a platform to create products that have a percentage of the benefits directly linked to the communities and the environment. And this is completely linked to one of the main paradigms of the Fab City, the data input, data output, the DIRO paradigm. But what happens inside, the input data and the output data? If we don't focus in regeneration, we could create with data input and data output an extractivist system or a neocolonialism. So we have to introduce the voice of the forest, the voice of the nature inside our democracy, and increase our democracy to naturecracy. And perhaps the future of the Fab Lab network is not this that Neil show us and teach us how to make almost anything. And I believe we are mastering that after many, many years. And maybe the future of Fab Lab is also how to regenerate almost anything. Thank you.
Yes.
We are all such fan of Benio's work, so thank you for the claps. And I am super curious, Benio, in our conversation actually earlier this year, because I was very fortunate to be able to visit Peru on a conservation tech conference, and I was able to visit your lab and also meet some of like the younger generation that's working there with you. And I also learned that there are, companies like PNG that works with you. So I actually want to ask more about the etiquette of how a corporate or a company, when they work with indigenous technology, ancestral knowledge, on what's the best practice.
Yeah, this is a huge question. We are building this answer with PNG, with CBA, and with the Fab Lab network and the indigenous communities. It took a long time. Well, we have many different layers. We have the Nagoya's protocol, we have national legislation, but I think the most important is trust. No? When the community trusts you and they say, I want to work something with you. And in this sense, I really thanks to the high-tech project because it was an opportunity to approach this global vision of the future of industry with the local manufacturers or the local innovators, that the community. And they match in something that they say, okay, we need to change the industry in the way that we are doing. And this is something that inspired, and in the case of local communities, they say, I want to be part of this this global project where I can bring what we can support for this new industry, and they're very excited with that. We're very excited with that. No? They don't feel that it's an extractivism. They feel that they have a role, not just I will take your knowledge, I will take your biodiversity, and goodbye. No, they say I can contribute with a global challenge, and I'm very happy with that. And I think the key part is the trust, build the trust.
Well, I think that part of building that trust is that introspective journey to be able to actually articulate not just, oh, we're going to go in, we're going to be very, this is a thing of etiquette. This is actually like how we move. Because I have indigenous body, I have indigenous eyes, I have indigenous mind, and how I move through this world and how I navigate many different worlds is also based on that introspective journey. And so what I'm asking for folks is to not just think about sort of like how we can actually get indigenous knowledge out to the masses, but for the masses to then look back and say, yes, I have these things. I have, for my molding and casting, I have the resin and everything. I know the company, but I don't know the tree. How do we get to know the tree? This is how we actually kind of like integrate ourselves into the larger story of those local ecosystems.
Yeah, completely agree with Jean-Luc. No? We have to bring the voice, no, to nature. Um, yeah, one of the challenges that we have in the project is how can we incorporate nature as a co-founder of everything that we made. No? They participate, no? And they have an identity. No? So indigenous communities have this pretty clear, no? But maybe we lose or we forget this relationship with nature. So part of the solution is we estimate a percentage, for example, in this product. No? What are all the materials that are involved, what are the origin of these materials, and how much of this energy that we use to extract do we need not just to repair, to increase biodiversity. No? And this percentage is included in the cost of the product. So at the end, you have a percentage that will feed back to the community and the forest itself.
Absolutely. One of the most also touching and beautiful moments I always remember is when I was learning dancing. And so I'm a big dance nerd. And so I kind of also go around the world to learn different dances. And then one of my teacher said, about being a good dancer and you need soul, right? And you like where is your soul is at. And so there was actually one researcher went around the world and asked different people from different parts of the world that question, where your soul is. And then they visited the Amazon forest, and the local community over there just said, yeah, just like, of course I know where soul is, it's over there in the tree where your soul is. So he actually going back to that introspective, talking about to that nature, talking about your indigenous mind, and perspective. I think that part of the connection and trust is also very huge. Often I think we coming from a education system that don't talk about that, or with a different culture that understand that very differently, right? Then you have it's all data, and they look at Amazon as if it's like a huge carbon credit thing, but actually there is a huge nature to human relationship that's much deeper and gets us to the deeper meaning of being coexist on this planet. So that's also a part of I think ancestral knowledge. When we as Fab Lab, as makers, as innovators, when we go into these communities, should really share and learn from each other.
Yeah, Naomi Ortiz, who's a disability activist and researcher. She has a book, and in this, I forget the title, but in this book is a quote: "Donde es su ombligo?"
Mm.
Where are you rooted? And so we have to think about our genealogies. We have to think about like what brought us here to this moment and all of the truths that we're asked to hold.
Yeah.
Super.
And with that said, I think, this is our session. I hope you liked what we shared here today. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you so much. And last but not least of today, going over bioregional operating systems, please welcome Tomás Diez moderating, Tibet Prague Director of Technology at Hilo, and Nepal Asatawasi Co-Executive Director of Mechanism.
Okay, so I'm really happy to be able to welcome both Nepal and Tibet. Really interesting. You will never see this again, this combination of names on stage. Because I think we're going to learn a lot from their work on the field when we talk about not only cities, but beyond. So this is related to some of the questions that we have earlier in the discussion with Neil and Kent about what it means local production, which are the boundaries of a city, which systems depend on, which systems we depend upon and where they are located. No? So we're going to have two very interesting complementary perspectives on bioregional orchestration as well as local manufacturing ecosystems from both Tibet and Nepal. So Tibet, please. Sorry.
Thanks, Tomas. Yeah, really excited to be here. We've been talking about partnering for many years, and it's finally all the pieces are kind of coming together. And yeah, it's been amazing to hear about the progress that Fab City has been making towards its mission and growing the network and all the new cities that joined today. So I'm very excited to add one more piece to the puzzle, which is Hilo, which is the sort of digital coordination layer for territorial orchestration, as we're calling it. I'm the director of technology for Hilo, and we call it a pro-social coordination platform, which I will unpack on stage here a little bit. So what is Hilo, and how are we going to support the Fab City network? So at its most simple, Hilo is an open source, nonprofit, free community platform that doesn't have any of the kind of extractive incentive models that a lot of the other social platforms that we use today have. And so, very values aligned in so many ways with Fab City and with everything going on here today. We're trying to create a digital commons. And so we're doing this in the open. We are looking for and incorporate all kinds of open source contributions from all of our stakeholders, all of our users, all of our partners. We govern it in a way using a governance strategy called sociocracy. Some of you know that, where we're really trying to include all the voices and stay accountable to the people using the platform instead of to funders or the market. And there's some really unique aspects to how Hilo is architected and built that really match well to enabling this Fab City network from lab to city hub to region or bioregion, all the way to supporting this global movement. In part, everything can be geographically tagged. So we're really focused on place-based organizing, on coordinating from neighborhoods to cities to regions. And the other thing that enables that is the ability to nest groups within each other and create these kind of complex networks, which really will work well for the Fab City network. And before I do a little bit of an overview of kind of some of the features and use cases, I just want to highlight that we are really passionate about increasing kind of pro-social or cooperative community collaboration. And so what that means is at the foundation of everything we're doing and how we're designing Hilo is how do we reweave a kind of social fabric that's based on trust and relationships And digital technology can't do all of the kind of work that has to happen to enable this kind of cooperative pro-social coordination. And so a lot of it is kind of thinking through the design of it and how we work with the community stewards and working closely with our partners. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then on top of that foundation, we can get into the kind of shared sense making and communications and all the other stuff, which I'll get into now. And as I go through some of these features, I want to highlight some of the use cases because we have thousands of communities already using Hilo. Also just want to highlight that they're in charge of their own data, their own relationships. We're not monetizing at all, really, in that way. We're never going to do anything with your data without your consent. So on top of this foundation of designing the platform to enable pro-social coordination, we have the basics of rich conversations, discussions, chat, sharing resources. We have the ability to cross-post from one community to another, so you can create these kind of shared nodes of collaboration and conversation. This is a group, the Bay Delta Bioregion, which is a living example of the kind of territorial coordination that we're already doing. I live in Oakland, California, and so we're using this community to kind of activate a bioregional identity around the Bay Delta. And for those that may not be so familiar with the word bioregion or bioregionalism, it's really about reconnecting to our place in a way that's both, what is the ecology that we are a part of, what are the watersheds that we are a part of, but also what is the biocultural, the communities that we live around and within, and how do we start to identify as place-based ecological beings. We have the ability to organize events and gatherings like this, shared calendars, member directories. This is a group, the Bioregional Commons, which is kind of a parent group that a lot of different bioregional groups can kind of live within, create a shared context for bioregional organizing. We have mutual aid, requests and offers. We're trying to promote a culture of reciprocity and solidarity and enable this kind of real-time needs tracking and non-transactional exchange. This was a gathering that we supported recently, a kind of online offers and needs marketplace that was using Hilo. The geographic mapping I mentioned, so you can actually mark the territories of groups and also see the different groups that are nested within each other, as well as all the people and projects and sort of resources and content. And then we also have this kind of network mapping views. So again, groups can be connected to each other and nested within each other. And so enabling the full ecosystem to see itself is a really powerful aspect of what we're building. And then once, as you build up in sort of the complexity and the ability for a group to coordinate together, we have some more sophisticated tools that enable things like collective governance, participatory funding rounds, the ability to distribute resources. So all these things could eventually come into play in the Fab City network, I think, in really interesting ways. And this was a foundation that used Hilo to distribute $700,000 last year through this very communal participatory voting system. And so, yeah, just to wrap it up, I want to come back to what I said at the beginning, which is, again, we can't solve all of these problems with just digital technology. So we're really trying to think about how to design these tools to enable pro-social behavior. Supporting the stewards is really key to that. So a healthy community requires empowered, really supported group stewards. And so we work closely with our partners. We're also thinking about education and documentation and training and things like that. And we really care about these pro-social design principles, which are built on the work of Elinor Ostrom, Nobel Prize-winning economist, who really thought about how groups can steward a commons well together. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but you can see these are the things we're thinking about in the kind of foundational design of the platform. And we're excited to very soon launch the Fab City Network on Hilo. We'll actually be demoing a little bit of what that looks like later on at a workshop at 3:30. So yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nepal Sadawasi. I'm one of the co-executive directors of Mechanism, and we actually do what Hilo does, but in place in communities across the U.S. We would be extremely enabled and facilitated by your tool, so we can talk about how we work together. Really quickly, I'm an urban planner and policy economic development practitioner by training and, the roles I've had before. My team while our core expertise is there, we also have makers, industrial designers, community organizers, people who worked on electoral campaigns. Just want to raise that up because all of these skills and these consciousnesses are really important to what we do. So we work with communities across the United States, hopefully internationally, to create and strengthen manufacturing and local production ecosystems, right? That keep resources, skills, values, and a shared collective vision of what local production can look like. Make sure that it circulates locally. So we have, some concentrations of work which contribute towards this mission. I'm going to talk a bit more about our local lab strategy for today, so we're going to leave it there. It is about community engagement to make sure that there is a consensus, an image of what local production would look like, and a central question to get people going, to activate them towards a common goal. We work on inclusive and equitable workforce pipelines, so that's helping a region assess and develop skills that will be useful for a production ecosystem. We work with capital to make sure that resources are channeled and stewarded to the various stakeholders and actors that are part of this ecosystem. And then we also are looking into succession and ownership transitions so that local businesses, entrepreneurs have the capability to keep what they build local. But let me say a couple of things about a bioregion and how we use it to contextualize the work that we do. So of course it is a territory, and there are kind of like the realities of that territory that are maybe like on a scientific layer. So that is like the climate, the soil, flora and fauna, water, all these systems, right? And then there is kind of what the environmental writer Peter Berg has called like a terrain of consciousness, and that is really kind of like the culture, the human culture that's developed to live in that place and to adapt in that place and to coexist with ethical reciprocity in that place. And I believe that that framing of a bioregion, more than a city, more than kind of like, an electoral kind of like delineation, is really important because, the crises that is, here, the crisis that is here requires kind of resilience to hold that geographic place and its, kind of ecological systems in balance with, the human culture, the bioculture that's grown to interact with it. So both a place and a consciousness. What this looks like is that people have a sense of place. They're aware of where their resources are coming from. They know the land. They know each other. They know their neighbors. And then, they develop these reciprocity, this ethical reciprocity with both other humans, other communities, and the landscape. So what does human community look like from a bioregional perspective? So this might look like society organizing in a way that allows individuals to, satisfy their economic, social, and cultural needs. And that political decision making would be carried out within that local community or kind of like collective entity. And for me and my team, what would a manufacturing and production ecosystem look like from the bioregional frame? So we believe that looks like an economy that's organized to what that area consumes. So that's good food, materials, that are kind of ideated, conceptualized, made, grown, or processed there. That ownership and control of production would be within the bounds of that local community, and the skills and knowledge required should be built and held locally. That doesn't mean there's no exchange with others, but then there is kind of like a pride ownership and this willingness to invest in building up knowledge resources for that community adapted to that place. So our local labs is our methodology, which seeds projects in various communities. I'm going to go into two very briefly, trying to find out, with that community, what a local production ecosystem can be to meet their needs. Before I talk about these two examples, I do want to get a bit into our process, which I haven't really put to slides here. It is, I'm an urban planner by training. It is very good, very long community engagement, kind of like moving at the speed of trust, like with Hilo, right? And it assumes kind of like certain principles that might be different from some of the engagement that, if you have been involved in local processes that you might be used to, right? So the most important thing is that we build a very wide stakeholder coalition and keeps on expanding, right? And the most important thing is that there are values that are held by this group that can be discussed, contested, renegotiated, but then that there are values that the project that becomes implemented follows. We challenge, the view of experts, including ourselves, that come in with predetermined frameworks. So we also, are aware that, oftentimes community voice is solicited at predictable stages in the engagement process, which might be then ignored or co-opted into kind of like the larger brief, that people along and groups along kind of like an upward hierarchy might, require or request. Often capital flows to insiders or visible organizations, and we, try to make sure that our process kind of like fights back against that, even though, there is a contradiction there. We do need kind of like resources and capital to move things forward. And it's always unclear, right? If the plans, what emerges, serves the community that it claims to serve, right? This is often kind of like a pitfall of engagement process that lead to a piece of infrastructure or some kind of spatial decision being made. So, our team are introduce kind of like strategies and question always at each part of our pretty extensive stakeholder engagement process. And so I bring this up only because what I have to show you in the work that we're doing in Cincinnati, which is in year 3, and in Western North Carolina, which is nearing year 2, is that these are just questions, right? And these questions grew over the course of engagement. So what the engagement helped us build was a network of people who dialogue and convene around a shared set of challenges or problem. Like in Cincinnati is because there are all these makers and manufacturers, government entities that want to activate them, but no web and no common purpose linking them up. In Western North Carolina, we were invited by a local group to come help the community decide what they need to do in order to both recover from Hurricane Helene, which hit, and to prepare better for the future, because we know things will worsen and actually worsen like significantly. Yeah, so a lot of that engagement build kind of like the web of actors and possibilities that will then take up this work, but across both projects and in our other local labs, the question evolves. And so after a 3-year engagement period and a 2-year engagement period, Cincinnati, Asheville, we now have a good question to contain the efforts, the hopes, the optimism, and the collective responsibility of the, like 400 plus ecosystem participants that we invited. Please come talk to me. I'd love to hear more about your work and see how we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you both. I think maybe we can talk about something that I'm probably concerned about, which is, I mean, I was defending before that it's very different to work in the lab than working out in the wild. Meaning when you go outside the lab, time frame is different, right? Building trust might take years. We saw that, a few examples before in some of the projects from the Fab City Awards. You are talking about time frames of 2 to 3 years. That for some makers is like unthinkable. It's like we want to produce faster and or kind of go from idea to prototyping faster. So don't you think that there is a kind of there is a need to increase maybe, or a challenge there from, or maybe there is no room for it, and I want to get your impression on also forcing these processes to go from 2-3 years to 6 months, like how we can accelerate trust building, especially not because we want to be faster, more efficient, or whatever, but because the systems of extraction are faster and more efficient. And is captivating attention and captivating interest from people. Therefore, some people trust in things that you should never trust in your life. Like a social network, for instance. So, how do you also force within your movements and your community to be faster against the competition?
Well, I mean, I think that is a role that we can support as a digital coordination layer, making it easier to share learnings, to be in direct communication across regions, across bioregions, and of course within a city and within a bioregion. So I hope we can support that. And I think that once we have some really great examples of successful communities that have activated to like make progress in all these areas that Nepal was just talking about, then we can start to create more templates that, I mean, it's tough because every bioregion is different. But there are certain aspects that I do think can be kind of templatized in certain regions of the world that are similar in both ecologically and culturally. Yeah, but I will say I don't think there's any getting around the need to build trust in relationships, and I think there's a cultural shift that maybe can start to build momentum there, especially in a place. An area, I mean, we are really focused on community resilience right now. We're actually just achieving a time with Hilo where we're ready to do the very local community resilience activation that we really are excited to do with it. It's mostly been sort of global networks and digital communities so far. And I think that disaster response is something that everybody cares about more and more, especially in areas. I mean, I live in the Bay Area where we have fires and earthquakes that are sort of very present on our minds. It's cross partisan divides, and you need to respond very quickly. And so we want to be preparing for emergencies and then having that foundation in place to then immediately be able to respond to disasters. And I think that can like rapidly increase if we then maintain those connections and that efforts and the work to build the kind of mutual aid networks instead of just letting them disintegrate and wait for the next disaster to happen. So that's a real focus of ours.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Building evidence, I think, is something also that this network can help speed up. And do you think that building more evidence, you can go from 2 to 3 years to 6 months?
No.
Why?
But I don't believe you can. I think it's incredibly hard. I think people have, even if they didn't know it, been involved in these processes before with like other kind of like formal institutions in our communities, right? That have failed them again and again and again. And so it's not like building trust from kind of like base 0. We're building trust from base minus 15, like people have been exploited for their time, for their input, for their contributions for a long time. And so we are trying to restore kind of like that base level before we begin to build the trust that enables kind of like collective action to happen. However, I do think that in building towards something that is objective-based, there can come up occasions, probably related to resilience or the need for it, that shows how this network of humans and communities actually are like getting to the groove of working together. And to kind of like point that out and to amplify it and say, even though we haven't hit this milestone in our formal plan, see how well you're working together.
Okay, so just as a final comment, I want to cite the work of Stuart Brand and the base layering. I don't know if you know about it, and it's this very beautiful diagram that puts different layers in which the things that change, the speed of change of certain things. So fashion changed very fast, the economy changed a little bit slower, culture is a bit slower, and the environment, according to this diagram, which is from the 60s, 70s, it was the slowest, and somehow that's flipping. So that's why the concern of speed here, and it's not about efficiency again. It's about like our culture, our environment has been disrupted as never before, and that's why I wanted to stress this out. And I especially thank you both to be part of this conversation, and also invite everyone to try to make it faster. With convince Nepal that it's faster, and thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the topics, conversations, and we're happy to welcome you at Fab City's exhibition in the Media Lab alongside the workshops deployed by our team and our collective. Many of you probably are here in the audience, also happening in the Media Lab. So thank you all for today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for waking up early and being here on time. So we have a couple of things you need to know happening today, tomorrow, throughout the weekend. And so we want to thank the band. So it took 10 years, around 5 months, a week of practice, and a couple of minutes to get this band together. So we're excited for them that they performed for us yesterday. This is where everything started, the little kid there. And yeah, we wanted just to thank the band. And so we have been pitching for where we're going to go in 2028. And I know there's not a lot, my full crowd is not here, but at least we'll get this recorded and disseminated online. And we want to hear you out. So for that, we're inviting everyone to vote. So please do scan that QR code. You need to have a Fab Labs IO account in order to vote. You can only vote once. And the idea is that your vote will count into the final decision of Fab 28. So please start your voting, and we will close voting tonight at 12. So make sure your votes are in. We want to thank our diamond sponsor this year is Xtool. They're doing a 1% makers, 1% for the makers. So if you are interested, just jump into the right side of the screen. And if you want to check all the demos and workshops that they're doing that are really popular throughout the week, just make sure to scan this QR code. We have been making some changes in terms of their schedule due to rain, so make sure you go there and check where the new locations are, especially they're going to be at the hub and at the CBA lab. Then check the weather. I know it's a little bipolar these days, but well, you have made it, so thank you for making it on time. We want to thank the Kendall Square Association for hosting us this morning. It was packed. It was a really nice crowd, so thank you all for those who came and got to know a little bit more about the Kendall Square Association. You do have the opportunity to personalize your tote bag. We have that at the lobby of Fab Hub Kendall, so make sure you join us there today. A couple of announcements in terms of drinks and food. We have noticed that there's a lot of drinks and foods within different spaces. Auditorium is a no. Also, make sure if you are drinking or eating within the spaces of labs to pick them up and be mindful of the space. Tonight we have a couple of things that we weren't announced. They were last minute, but we're making it happen. And so we have the Art the Fab Expo. We are welcoming everyone tonight at 6:30 at the lobby of E14 Media Lab to join us and explore everything that has been exhibited there throughout the week. And after that, I wanted to invite everyone to join Walter and Jean-Luc. We're building the first llama at E14. This has never been done. It's going to be at the third floor of E14 Media Lab. So please join us there at 7. You are all invited to contribute to this great llama. Tomorrow. So tomorrow we have the closing reception. It's going to be at Fab Hub Kendall, and that's the closing reception of FAB26 plus the opening of Fab Hub. So make sure you're there. It's going to be basically passing on from this community that's international to the local community. So make sure you are there. And we are also adding more to the schedule, but well, this is what we do. I have some words here from Neil. Do you want to come in and say what this is about? Just to say from there.
I decided I needed a hobby because I don't have enough to do. So I've been having fun with little smart telescopes. And so these are pictures I took with a pocket-sized telescope. And so we were going to do it tonight, but it's cloudy. We're gathering a few other astronomers with interesting smart telescopes after the Fab Hub at 9 o'clock. Meet at the corner of E14, and we'll go look at things in the sky.
But before that, we're also having telescope projects being built. So Carrie who you've been seeing around, he's also building a telescope, and we're inviting everyone to join his project 2:30 tomorrow, also at Fab Hub Kendall. Saturday, we have the Fab Festival. So this is a distributed festival that we're making across the greater Boston and New England area that you're all welcome to join. We have activities within the Fab Hub Kendall, and there's a couple of different sites that you can visit. But before that, Neil is inviting everyone for a little park run. So if you are if you are interested in that, so before you head to HQ or any of the different HQ, Fab Hub Kendall, to the different sites, you can also join Neil at a nice park run. The information is available on the schedule. Boston Public Library has been hosting for at least 1 week now the exhibition from Alfonso Parra. That you're welcome to join, and he's making a workshop on Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. So if you want to join him, just head to the library. A lot of changes have been made. Make sure to upload or refresh your browser, go to the website, make sure that you are in the right spot at the right time, and I won't bother you more. You can go to lunch. Bye. See you tomorrow.